Uh-oh.
Oh. Okay.
Wait, maybe we have to set it again explicitly. We'll try that. There we go. That's weird. For some reason, my OBS decided to not find the microphone this time around. So let's start that again. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
It's Saturday night.
Konnichiwa.
Exactly. Time of the weekly dig. For anyone new to the stream, this is a live show where we dig into anime old and new. In this case, starting with something old. I'm Brent. These are my fabulous co-hosts, John. Say hi, John.
Konnichiwa. Hi, John.
And Steve.
Hola, ¿qué tal?
There we go. Nice.
La biblioteca.
So let us start our dig tonight by analyzing an anime OVA we all watched this week, Dallos.
Dun dun dun.
Yes.
Dun 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 dun.
Wonderfully dramatic music.
Exactly. So if you're in the chat, please let us know if you've seen Dallos and kind of what your initial impressions were of that. Yeah, we're gonna get into Dallos here and talk a little bit about that. This is an OVA, actually the first OVA, which came out in '83. I just realized I said that, and a little bit in the back of my mind is saying, was it 80? It was 83. Good. Kind of came out in '83, because the release schedule of this was kind of funky. They released episode 2 first, and then came back and made episode 1 and released that to explain what was going on, because apparently folks were confused. And I don't.
At least they were
anything...
very responsive to the audience,
exactly.
Right?
I don't see anything about this in the Wikipedia article or the other stuff I looked into, and I've not been able to find a reference for this, but I have seen like the images. Apparently, parts of it were initially released incomplete. They were so far behind schedule, they would just throw like storyboards in there, or just like inked but not colored sequences. Just to get it out the door. So yeah, it had issues. But apparently it did. They did eventually go back in and finish it up and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. Oh boy.
Well, I almost swear, in the last 5 years, I've seen some anime where they've done that flip out of the actual animation.
Oh yeah.
To storyboard to like super highlight what's going on and like really sort of very artsy a fight or something that's happening and just the wild ability to sketch it out with storyboards. And that's very interesting that they didn't do it artistically. They're right out of time. Like, nice.
Apparently. So yeah. So yeah, and I the artwork's something I definitely want to talk about, Jay, because that's definitely a very fundamental aspect to this. I think one of its appeals is that this is just, boy, this is a 1980s sci-fi anime.
It's something.
Yeah.
It's something.
It's something. So let's start as we normally do. So I had heard of Dallos a while back, tracked down a copy, watched it some years ago. My impressions have not changed since then, but we'll get to that in a little bit. John, what was your exposure to Dallos?
You said there's an OVA called Dallos, and we're watching it next week. Ta-da!
Cool.
Other than knowing, that Oshii was involved with it, that I had never. It's never even come up as like, oh, these are some of the important films, OVAs you should watch. That word has never crossed any screen that I've seen.
No,
any
there
con.
hasn't.
So I was like, oh, Dallas. Okay, Dallas. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Dallas. When JR got shot. Oh,
Right.
Dallos.
Dallos.
Oh, gotcha. So that was my experience. You said we were watching it.
Yeah. Steve, how about you?
So my first experience was with Otakon,
Nice.
and it in of course one of the video rooms, and I sat down and I was watching it, and I it makes sense now that he started with episode 2 instead of 1, because I literally thought I was like, did I miss something? Did I watch this out of order? What's going on here? And much like many horrible train wrecks, where you see the things but you just can't look away. I stayed there for it because the panels. It was like, okay, we're going to show all four episodes because it was 30 minutes, so that's like the 2-hour chunk that it does. When I sat there, and at the end of it, I was just like, we're all just like walking out and just kind of going,
what did we? Wait, we did it for 2 hours. Why?
Why was I drawn to this? Why did I not want to leave? Because that's actually the most important question. Why did I not want to stop watching it? Now, since then, I have watched it again, and of course, it's the most recent iteration, i.e., last night. Again, I was just like going, okay, I'll just skip through because I've seen this a few times, and then I found myself just watching the whole thing, and I was just like going, and at the end of it, I was just like, why did I do this again?
It's one of the fascinating things. Jay in the chat, I think you kind of nailed it. It is classic science fiction. And it has all of the, not just the tropes, but kind of the structure of classic science fiction. So there are so many things in here where they kind of dangle in front of you to say, here's the thing that we're going to resolve later. Here's something else we're going to resolve later. And then they never do. But
you're grasping at the strings, right? Going, "Oh, please, God, give me some."
Yeah, but they pull you along all this stuff, all the way. So, basic concept I like to say is organized labor in space. Basically, thank you.
If I'm gonna have organized labor miners in space, I want the Great Space Miner show.
Mighty Space Miners.
Yes, the Mighty Space Miners.
I couldn't stop
I want
thinking of
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Which also had a troubled release, ironically. But yeah, so set on the moon in the future, obviously, where there is a large labor force working there, and they're feeling increasingly disenfranchised, and there's increasing strikes and violence and so forth, and so it's this sort of cat and mouse game between the revolutionaries and the government, particularly Alex, who is brought in to deal with this. And I say Shar because it's the same voice actor, like just straight up.
Oh wow, I never even noticed that.
Yeah, it's literally Shuji Ikeda.
Damn. Okay.
And so he comes in to sort of clean all this up and fails miserably. And so that's one of the things I think that makes the OVA legitimately interesting is that is how it is about this sort of unrest between the labor class in a way that I think is very relatable. Like, they do manage to layer in this plot line that all these people were shipped up here, decades ago to start everything, and the capital investment was just unimaginable. And so the resources on the moon are kind of minimal by definition. Like, you don't have a lot to work with. And so they've been working. Well, now you have new generations who just grew up on the moon. They have no connection to Earth. They have no particular feelings for Earth. But they're still working and feeling really frustrated. And so...
well, there was a point where they are at a park, and there is a giant statue.
Mm-hmm.
And the statue
shows,
like, the base of the statue looks like it's got continents on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the sculpture is just human bodies climbing like a pillar to something that is cratered that looks like the moon. Yep. And they did a great job at showing it and never once addressing it.
Right.
Walked right away from it. It's like, this is a seminal point. You could be like, this was the investment made. That. This is why Earth is so obviously invested in this.
Mm-hmm.
And they walk away from it. Where it's like, damn it.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, because the most explanation you get is a 4-minute explanation of Alex showing his girlfriend, whatever, in the
Melinda.
in the hovercraft ski thing, and he goes, and we're just shooting stones up.
Yeah.
Into space, into this big processing unit. So all we're doing is just like, we should have Tonka toys and we're just making things up in space. And life is horrible. And the miners want, better whatevers. And Doc McCoy. God, so many Star Trek jokes right there.
I'm a doctor, not a miner.
Wait a
minute, I'm a miner, not a doctor.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you just lose so much, and it's just like almost a Shin-Chan moment for me, because when Shin-Chan makes his demands like a labor union worker, and then when he doesn't get to, he's like sulks off into the corner. It's kind of what I felt like about these guys, the Lunarians. They're just like, we want our
Yeah, I'm not sure I was aware of seeing any here's corporate overlords like knocking the miners and stuff around. It's like, no, they're upset. They obviously have demands, and we don't see anything. It's like any kind of I totally get. I sympathize with them. Their working conditions are terrible. It's like we hardly see anything.
Yeah,
you don't see anything, but you know what you do see? You see the parks. You see the idyllic. Waterfalls that defy the moon's gravity.
Yeah,
and
and Area 3, which is a terrible, horrible slum, which is like under this great big blue dome. It looks like it's very nice with the swans.
and with the swans at the park where you can ride a Ferris wheel. Of course, in moon gravity, because
that's how that works.
That's the thing. Because
maybe they altered the moon's gravity. I don't know. There are so many things they never mentioned.
Well, if you have a giant machine buried in the moon, the moon could be a giant machine. In which case, it has gravity rules all to itself, right?
Yeah,
that's totally understood right there,
absolutely.
Right?
Sure.
And sure. And that's the thing, is that there are so many different interesting ideas in here, and so it should be pointed out. There's very much a Moon is a Harsh Mistress vibe to the story.
Right.
Very similar basic plot. The moon does not have an atmosphere, at least. They're all under domes.
We hear the wind blow.
We hear the wind blow, so it's weird.
That's just gas escaping.
Yeah, there we are.
Well, good to know.
Yeah. And so you have that. But you also have, it's odd. Let me see if I can find here all our characters.
Odds a word.
Yeah.
Uninformative would be another.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you have the whole setup here. I'm trying to find. Gosh, it does take a long time to start all of this. There we go. So we're introduced to our protagonist, Shun, who is a mechanically minded teenager who isn't really aware of his surroundings and prefers to tinker with things. Who then interacts.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, well, then this cute girl who's kind of a neighbor girl shows up, who kind of has a thing for him, and kind of tries to kind of ground him a little bit in what he's doing. He kind of ignores her and works on his machines,
like most teenage boys on the moon,
exactly,
who are minors.
And you have your serious overseer, who's Shar, and it's very clear that like everybody on this project had seen Mobile Suit Gundam when it came out 4 years prior, and are very much sort of copying from that script. The trouble is we never really see Shun's emotional development. One of the reasons why Amuro works is because he starts off as this kind of this immature kid thrown into this difficult situation, who then does what needs to be done, but then over the course of time, the pressure kind of builds and builds and builds, and he kind of breaks at various times. And that kind of works dramatically, but here you don't really get any of that. He's just kind of this teenager who's pulled into all of this, and then just kind of wanders around watching what's going on. And occasionally fighting and such, but there's none of that exposure.
Well, he half-heartedly participates in stuff, and then just is sort of swept along more than he has his own sort of like power motive to go and do anything.
Exactly.
It's like, good job, kid. I would also argue that obviously people Gundam as an influence, but also character design. If you think of Oji-chan, the grandpa,
yeah,
he looks an awful lot like the captain of the space battleship Yamato.
I didn't see that personally.
For his, the full like connective beard, where it's like it's not like a genuinely well done beard. It's just kind of glued onto the man's face.
Okay, yeah.
It looks an awful lot like who from Star Blazers I knew was Captain Avatar.
So I kept thinking Nanook of the North, honestly.
Oh, it could be as well.
With the glasses. You know,
which I mean, for a lot of this, stylistically for the '80s. Pretty much, you could say every series just like nibbled at every other series.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So Grandpa, he's got a very much that sort of unibeard, especially with the rigid mouth line that Captain Avatar had with his beard that hid his mouth. So you know, they probably this entire thing is like the bastard child of like a lot of stuff going on.
Absolutely. Well, and you know, the mechanical designs feel pretty Macross-esque.
Yeah.
The way all of them work.
All the way down to the sound effects.
Yeah.
I mean, the sound effects are 100% every like sci-fi kind of Macross-y kind of noise, that kind of noises. I'm like, wow, you guys stole that entirely. That's awesome.
Yeah. And granted, Macross had only come out a year before this. So it was the hot new property. It was the hot new thing. Everybody had seen it.
Yeah.
So you know, if you're gonna see
all
the
those
best.
Are Foley operators the people that make noises? Is that what Foley people are? I imagine that when this came up as like, oh, we got a sci-fi extravaganza, the people who were like the Foley artists for Macross were like, we have an entire sound catalog. Would you like to buy it? So it felt a lot like that.
Yeah. It would be fascinating to go back and find out. And I know they did release. There was a like making of documentary released with this at some point, like in Japanese. I'd love to go back and find out like the production history behind this and like, what they were pulling from, how much money they had, all that stuff. Because this definitely feels, and the budget's not low by any stretch. It's a perfectly solid anime budget. But it does feel like they're
drunk.
Well, we came up with this description a while back, which I really really love, which is
nice.
It is all sorts of interesting elements, none of which come together. Right, where it's like these characters are very generic, but they're very standard anime characters, like. In and of themselves, it's fine. The setting is interesting. It has interesting elements to it, interesting bits to it. The mecha designs are cool, all that kind of stuff. But just it kind of wanders off into nowhere.
Well, even for the mecha designs, they're good. They're not great.
True.
They're not terrible.
Yeah.
They're just solidly good.
Well, and they have this interesting
like...
this interesting situation where they're clearly trying to set up the idea that you have the kind of sleek, Earth-designed ships with like the patrol craft, and then the miners are all reconfiguring the pieces they have and all their equipment, this very industrial equipment to make all this happen. And so you really only get two cool designs. The hover police unit things. What were the decompilers? I think they were called. Whatever they were. Degraders, something like that. I don't know.
Degraders. That's not something good for your police force to drive. Bring out the degraders. Let's show these miners what's going on. Like
debugger. I think that was the
debugger.
name I saw in mine.
As if that was any better.
Yeah.
It's not much better, but
yeah, exactly. Which are, and we talked about this, before the streams started. These are hover ships that have perfect hovering capabilities, and they can hover anywhere they want to. Move up, down, left, right, full degrees of freedom, all that. Just sit right wherever they want to, and they have legs.
So in the subway scene, when they're like, "Oh, he's at the other platform," they're like, "Yeah, all right, we're gonna do a 90-degree turn with all these people below us, and we're just gonna go." And they're like, all the people are just like, but you don't see any like, you know, wind backwash from
jet wash,
or anything like that. And it was just like, I'm like going, wow, that's. Can I have something that can make that tight of a turn?
Exactly.
But it's helpful to have legs that look like a was it T-89 or what was it? Was it from
the Walker?
Oh, the ATSTs. The
Yeah,
Walker, yes.
the RoboCop.
What was that name? Yeah.
RoboCop.
Ed 209. Yeah.
Ed 209. That's it.
Should also be pointed out. There's a pretty strong spinner from Blade Runner resemblance as well.
Okay. Yep.
You know, especially being hovering, police cars basically.
Yeah.
But like you say, Jay, it's the artwork does feel like an old G.I. Joe cartoon a lot of the times, but it's still like well put together artwork, right? Like it doesn't feel out of place for the setting and so forth.
Oh, for 1983, this is entirely right in the smack zone for the animes that were of extant at the time. So it's entirely acceptable.
And this is when G.I. Joe came out. Like, the animators drawing this were probably drawing G.I. Joe at the same time. They're probably working on that show.
As I was saying,
one or two Dallos frames, a couple of G.I. Joe frames. Oops.
As I was saying last night to Brent, when the G.I. Joe came up, I was just like, all right, guys, bust those Union miners. Go Joe.
Well, and I have to say, I think when we got the infamous moon skiing paratroopers in, see if I can get they all, wow, was that really episode 3 where they all came in?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because he's all busted up. Where is that? I need to show you all.
And they did some the going where they were under.
There we go.
For some reason, jungle tarp camouflage
on the moon,
on the gray moons. I don't know.
Yeah, with the wind blowing.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, they took effort with that
to
make sure that was done well. So I would almost say that some of those fight scenes in that.
Yeah.
They actually spent more time trying to get it just in the right place and time.
Totally.
Whereas the rest of it was entirely 1983.
And I do think some of these designs very much felt like, well, first off, it was Mask more than anything else. Wonder if they were working on that.
That's terrible.
Working
oh God!
Fighting crime.
Now I'll never see this again, the same way. I'll be looking at this thing the whole time. Who's got the Corvette that converts and flies? Damn it!
And these just look like when G.I. Joe kind of got to that point where they'd really run out of all of their original ideas and were just like, okay, let's kit bash 3 things together and push out that. This kind of feels like that.
So the moment they jump the shark,
yes,
if you will.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something vaguely stormtrooper-esque, ski paratrooper, cool.
Yeah, with Kabuki mask. It's all it's awesome.
Fine.
But did you notice that they actually did make an effort to make them look like alpine skiers, or
absolutely,
yeah. And it was just like, I was just like, okay, that's nice, but it's the moon.
Now, with that helmet design in this shot, is that vaguely Zaku looking?
Yeah, I would say in general.
I mean, kind of the chunky shoulder and the sort of rounded helmet portion.
A little bit.
So,
and again, I would. When I say they were probably working on G.I. Joe, that's not a joke. It's a joke. But these companies were working on G.I. Joe at the time too. Toei animated that show.
Yeah.
So it is certainly possible that they were kind of like, oh, that looks cool.
Well, this also reminds me of the bike armor from Genesis.
Oh, the Spider. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that look in and of itself is like, wow, this has kind of got a little bit of Southern Cross and a little bit of Mospeada going on with it. I'm like, aha.
Yeah. One of the other things that's kind of a difficulty, actually, I'll see if I can show you here. Because it was really noticeable in the shot where they're suiting up. There we go. And it's kind of hard to see with everything else going on, but one of the drawbacks of the art style is that there are a lot of sequences where instead of doing shadows, it's just black. So like you can see on their suits, there's just kind of these just large, like just sort of black areas of just, you know, black nothingness, which can sometimes work, but in this case, because it is so very early 80s, it can kind of feel a little awkward visually. You just have these sort of inky black spots all over the place, while everything else is relatively bright. By those standards. So again, not bad. It's just one of those things where I think it's a stylistic choice that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Because it should be pointed out. So Hisayuki Tsuruyumi was the director of the first episode. He actually did Gotcha Man back in the day, apparently.
Oh wow!
Yeah. And then so he did episode 1, while Oshii did episode 2. And then apparently they did basically, you know, alternate work on it from that point on. And that's not episode 1. There we go. That's when I start with episode 2. That's why. Because it starts with this sort of, you know, flashback to what was going on, and it's this moody, dark, serious storyline about these guys. I mean, it opens with this long sequence of these two men, unnamed. One of them slumped over. The other is just mechanically loading shells into a magazine.
An impossible number of shells to be held in one hand.
It just
I'm
like going, okay, we have 33. Okay.
Yep. Keep on going.
Like you can hold maybe 5 at a shot as you're putting them in, but no, he manages to hold a magical number that just keep appearing in his hand.
Yep.
Like, huh.
And then he takes one out and he kind of looks at it and to the pocket.
I actually really like that moment because it's dirty.
Yeah.
And he picks it up and he goes, oh, and he just kind of, you know,
wipes it
off and puts it in.
Yeah.
Why would you?
Why do you care? You're going to die.
Right.
And you never know what's going on with the next guy. He just looks depressed and like oh, woe is me. And you find out that he's like, you know, brain dead.
Yeah, for 2 hours.
For 2 hours. And it's just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
When did that happen?
And this is the thing, is that, again, if this is your introduction to Dallos, this is a pretty crackerjack opening. Because you watch this and you're like, you want to know what's happening. You want to know what's going on, right? And you're pulled into the scenario, and then you get to meet Alex, you get to meet all these characters in this tense standoff. We see Shun, we see Rachel, we see all these characters sort of brought in. And it's just this big police action all of a sudden. Very Patlabor, actually.
Well, also, too, the thermal imaging thing.
Yeah.
All I could hear in the background of my mind was Megazone 2-3, and you see the images of people behind the walls. I'm like,
Well, and Ghost in the Shell very much as well. Later on,
there's a lot of interesting influences running around there.
Very much, and then you get things like the. So this is where it gets, in my opinion, Oshii Wonderful Absurdity, where the police start firing, and you get this cascade of shells coming down the stairs.
Yeah,
and
I was like. I'm just watching. I'm just like going, and I know this is all right. No, wait, no.
It's a very subtle commentary on police violence. Very subtle.
Yeah.
Very subtle.
The deafening roar that would be that much firing. Like, holy crap.
Yeah. But you know that comes up in one of the Patlabor, I forget if it's the movie or the show, and where there's that scene where it's the shell casings dropping, and you hear that noise. It's very, very, very Patlabor, and it did remind me of that. But still, it just felt like, you know, the tsunami of copper shells coming down the going. And again, I have to say it again. Gravity,
right? Yeah, it's fine.
They're all magnetized somehow to
Sure. Yeah. No, and that's the thing is that you move forward into this story, and it is a very Oshii opening, which is ironic because Oshii wasn't doing any of this yet, right? He hadn't made Ghost in the Shell. He was working on Beautiful Dreamers, I think, at the time. All of these staples of Oshii are really being formed here.
Yeah.
In this weird little sci-fi story. And you get introduced to Alex and the council and so forth and so on. And so there are all these elements of the show where I'm like, there's something here, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it itself, but then when you start connecting all the dots, it just kind of falls apart. It's frustrating.
Yeah, the entire council and the interconnected elements of the minor society with the guys on the council, the Lunarians, and Earth, and blah, blah, blah. They explore none of it. Or at least I should say they don't explore it to the extent that this could have gone on, and had very much like Gundam. Yeah. The political ramifications, the interconnectedness of individual people, plus their offices, that this just for 4-episode OVA just did not have the capacity to address that in a way that I'm kind of surprised they didn't just go for more action and just sort of slide this to the side and be like, we don't have time to develop that. So let's just go with the total action fighting for 30 minutes and see what happens.
Nope. It's a shame because I think there's all of the pieces are there. It feels. I'll bet the novelization of this would be amazing. Yeah. Give me time to delve into all those characters, all that situation. That would be great. But they just don't do any of that here. And it's tough because, like I was saying before, I find the basic premise, and one thing I really appreciate about this OVA is how messy and human a lot of it was, where the miners intellectually understand why they're there, but don't feel it anymore, right?
Right.
The council is like, our jobs are to make sure that we keep the public order, and you're not doing that anymore, so we have to stop you. Whether we agree with you or not, this is what has to happen. And we don't really understand why you would do this. Why are you so angry? Alex is thrown into all of this as this Earthling to come in and kind of solve the problem, and it's not going to happen. Everybody knows it. We've all been in work situations where somebody gets pulled in to solve everything and gets dropped in the middle of a situation, and it's like, no, that's not going to solve it. And he knows it, but he's kind of doing his best. This is what I think is right, and he's doing that thing. So all those pieces are there, but again, because they're trying to tell an action story and political drama and, dark philosophical thing, and Dallos is a god, and oh, by the way, there's a giant alien robot face on the dark side of the moon that we just found one day, but we think humans built it, but we don't know.
Yeah.
But what the hell? We're going to worship it as a god anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. Whatever.
That's that was going to be the 5th OVA. It was the
exactly.
scientific background to Dallos, the thing, and it didn't happen. So,
and Jay, I think you're absolutely right. As a TV series, that's what this needed. This needed to be a TV series. Because it has all the pieces for it, right? You have all these different elements.
Right.
Obviously, there's some blood and guts, but that can be, that can be put into the DVD.
The director's cut.
Exactly.
Well, it's funny is that when at Otakon, speaking of the guts part of this, is that at the death panels at Otakon. The death panels. Dallos was always on these panels because they had some of the most glorious death scenes, in there. Okay. And the guy exploding, his face exploding inside the capsule, people being sucked out. And see, that's the thing I didn't understand. One of the scenes where it's just they're being sucked out of the ship, but they have their suits on, but they still implode inside.
Yeah.
And, things like that. And it's just various things where it's just this is so totally not needed. But everything else is just, we don't get anything. So let's just throw something at the audience.
Right.
You know.
Let's shock the
Or a
audience
war.
back awake.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, are you sleeping? Hey, death.
Yeah. Oh, what? Look at that horrible thing. What's going on here?
And I think that is also very much a reference back to Macross and like the very bloody deaths in Macross.
Right.
Which they if folks are curious, they edited down for the Robotech series because it was literally too hot for TV. But it felt like that to a very great degree. And so, yeah. And then there's the music.
Yes, there is.
So, that opening is the most dramatic piece of music ever made.
It's amazing.
Slight hyperbole.
Wish they had lived up to it.
It's bizarre because a lot of the times the music is, I'll call it inoffensive, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, it's there, it fits, it's fine.
Right.
Other times there's one scene in here, and it doesn't matter what the visual is, where they have this really tense action scene, and they're playing this sort of like disco jazz number.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, disco jazz number and 80s pop synth.
Yes.
And it was just like, I'm like going, and people are getting blown up and having shards going in their eyes and stuff like that. And you're just like oh,
I can't wait to buy the soundtrack.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not ironic. Like it's not setting it up that Sam Peckinpah, glory of violence or anything. No. It's just that's the soundtrack they put onto this. It's,
Maybe they commissioned the soundtrack before the show.
Yeah.
Then it was one of those like, well, we slide this piece to there and this. We've got one left over. Where should we put it? How about this dramatic scene?
Yep.
Sure. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
all I know is that when I went to bed last night, I did it in the most dramatic fashion.
Exactly. So what? There are two composers credited on this. I'm going to see if I can find more. Honestly, I did not look this up ahead of time. Oh, come on, hold on. I asked it to search, and it didn't. There we go. Oh, interesting. Really? That's not helpful. Sorry. Went to an all Japanese site, which is always great. Nope, that's not it either. He is not a character in Power Rangers. I mean, he probably is, but that's not the one I'm looking for. There we go.
The character's been recycled. I
Yeah,
gotcha.
exactly. Oh, wow! Okay. I did not expect that. That's interesting. Sorry. Weird connection here. One of the composers, Hiroyuki Namba, went on to do the soundtracks for Starship Troopers, Armitage the Third, Burn Up W, Transformers Car Robot, the 2003 series, and a little show called Space Dandy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, I'm going to click through. This is all Wikipedia, so who knows. Yeah. One of many, many composers. They basically got a different composer for every episode. This is the composer for, let's see if we can find out. So this is Hiroyuki Namba. Season 1, episodes 1, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12. So, good chunk of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No joke.
Cool. Apparently known for his synth style, which, yes, very much so. The other guy, Ichiro Nita, assume it's a guy, did a couple of things. He did Sakigake Otoko Juko, the movie, which is one of those, high school for delinquents with a ridiculously powerful student council who gives them terrible punishments and ridiculous punishments, and they have to rise back against the man. One of those.
Okay.
And a bunch of other various things like that. He did the Area 88 OVA. He did
Wow. Okay.
Nanako SOS. But he also did the music for Sukeban Deka. Sukeban Deka is again, sort of this... I will give you the description from IMDb. Neo-Nazis take over a school, turning it into a training camp by attempting with a coup d'etat. Sukeban Deka should stop him, but it seems impossible if she's alone. Anyway.
Wow.
Sukeban Deka is it's a girl who fights back against this stuff with a yo-yo. And she uses this like yo-yo to kill things. Here's the thing.
It's fighting neo-Nazis with a yo-yo.
This was massive. This was a huge thing. It's referenced in Lucky Star.
Oh, wow.
And the end credit sequence of Kill la Kill is an almost shot-for-shot remake of the end credit sequence of Sukeban Deka.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
It was a really big deal. And like when people mentioned, and this is actually somebody in maybe Joe, it was you, who mentioned Sukeban Deka and said, just keep your eye out for this. Like, you know, when you hear that. There's another recent comedy where a bunch of girls all show up as sort of delinquents in various sort of outfits, and one of them is Sukeban Deka in this scene in this anime. So yeah, it's just a common thing. Anyway, nothing to do with Dallos, just an interesting connection.
It makes Dallos more interesting.
Yeah, exactly, which we needed.
Sort of.
And this is the weird thing about Dallos is that, again, all of these pieces are there, but then we get to the ending.
Is it?
Well, I use ending in only the most dictionary sense, and it does stop. It does
We
end.
get to the point where it stops.
Right.
Like,
And again, so have you guys seen Shirobako?
Yes.
In the chat, have you guys seen Shirobako? There is a storyline in Shirobako, which is an anime series set at an anime studio, where they're trying to finish this anime series, and they have to like lock the director in a cell to make him, write the ending and actually figure out what the ending's going to be.
Yeah.
Oh boy, does this ending feel like Oshii going, what do I do? What do I do? How do I... Let's just go philosophical. We'll just go full philosophical. He'll just go out into the wilderness. We'll have shots, big moody shots of the earth and all of his destroyed buildings, and he'll talk to himself a lot, and that's my ending.
And graves and stuff.
Graves and things, and Uncle dies, and Shun becomes part of it. Because it's the story arc we all should have known was going on, but didn't because it wasn't. Was that it was Shun transforming from an oblivious miner worker, happily, blithely mining stones to send up into space.
Yeah, stones.
And
not
stones,
gold.
Not gold. Not
freaking.
lithium.
Yeah,
whatever.
and no actual precious mineral. Nope. Stones.
Stones.
Earth is short of stones.
Stones.
Oh.
Because that's how Earth is powered now. Stones.
Stones.
So Shun goes through
We
this
need
whole...
sidewalks. Massive amounts of sidewalks. We hear you.
And Shun goes through this whole non-existent story arc of him becoming a rebel, where he stands in the middle of the grave of all the Lunarians and shouting, shaking his fist at Earth, and why did you abandon us, and all this stuff. And then then you have Doc talking for 5 minutes, and he goes, and his friend is just like, okay, nothing happened, nothing changed. He's like the realist. He's like, okay, absolutely nothing happened. Mm-hmm. And Doc is like, no, don't you see the fires of rebellion? Shut up. Shut up.
Yeah.
You lost the battle. And there's a scene that's supposed to tug at your heart where he's calling out his comrades' names and no one's answering. Mm-hmm. And you just don't care.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those things, but I really want to do how we do it on this, because that ending scene could have been this scene showing how pathetic Dog is. Of like, no, I've got this. I know this, we're all good. But it's played so straight, you feel like, well, maybe he's right. I don't know. But if they played it like, this is the cycle of violence, right? But and you get all these perspectives and then the whole montage at the end of all these characters kind of doing their thing. Yeah, it's...
and when they're going through the credits, like the credits were actually, in all seriousness, the credits were actually gave any of Dallas any credibility, because it actually shows them, like Shun actually becoming the rebel.
Yeah,
his girlfriend, I guess.
Melinda
is also learning how to, under Don's
Rachel.
Tutelage, Rachel.
Oh, Rachel.
Tutelage to become a terrorist, and and then at the end of it, is of course they have to ruin it because they have to bring in the poor dog,
poor dog,
and cybernetic enhanced dog that was Alex's pet, and the dog just does the dumbest damn howl. It sounded like a Wookiee being emasculated. It was like just. You're just like, it's supposed to be like the final dramatic point. You're just like going,
yeah.
And that's when Dallos rises. No,
No.
not at all.
You get nothing.
Switches on.
Yeah.
The lights come on. So that's important.
At the end.
Let's flip this switch. We have lights. Awesome.
Yeah.
Now the Earth knows where to shoot their missiles. Oh, that's a bad plan.
That's a very bad plan, yes.
Dallas just wakes up and goes, "That's this noise, what?"
So, I do want to talk about one thing with all of this. I do believe that Dallos is a metaphor for the Japanese businessman.
Dallos, the god or the show?
The show.
Okay, good. He's
Sitting
powered,
there
but he doesn't have any sort of control.
Hey, there we are. So I think there's a fairly clear line you can draw here, a fairly clear map you can draw here, where the workers on the moon are similar to the general Japanese workforce at this point in the early 80s, right? Generations have been digging their way out of World War II, just go to work, keep the economy running, all that kind of stuff. But now we're getting into the fabulous 80s. To go Mystery Science Theater, hey, it's the 80s. Let's do a lot of coke and vote for Ronald Reagan. But it's this time of great prosperity and so forth. And folks are kind of like, why are we working so hard? Like why are we keeping this whole economy running? Earth is, the obvious thing is the Earth is the U.S. because they're all blonde or silver-haired. But I think more directly, they are basically the expectations of Japan, right? Like we need to be seen to be this technologically advanced country with a strong economy, and that just kind of shackled the common worker of Japan to 20-hour workdays.
Right.
And so, seen through that lens...
And also rapacious use of resources in order to fuel that
economy. Yep, absolutely. And this sort of universal middle class, right? Everyone's basically the same level.
Right.
Except for the aristocrats. And so on that level... again, the ending kind of makes sense because there is no solution, right? Like you can't just wave a magic wand and solve labor's problems or solve management's problems. It's a long, difficult problem, whatever. And the issue with that is that it doesn't even address that. I would find this interesting. Where again, there's some philosophical stuff around. Metropolis, the end of Metropolis, the original 22 film. The mind and the heart must meet through the hands. Or the mind and the hands must meet through the heart. Right. You need balance between the two extremes. And Dallas is just like, no, everything's meaningless, and life goes on. Goodbye.
Yeah. And then after the end
such
credits,
a
scene,
message
like,
of hope.
Yeah.
It's like drinking malt liquor. My God.
Sadness and rage.
Sadness and rage.
Anger, sadness, and sleeping rage.
Here we go. And again, it's difficult because there are all these. It's like seeing a great artist that hasn't figured out perspective yet, and like really needs to figure out perspective. And it's like your paintings have all this energy and verve and interesting ideas behind them, but I can't understand them at all. And you just need to turn the corner, you know, just do the thing.
Well, the good news is this was 1983.
Mm-hmm.
And they did figure out how to get the corner turned. They did move on. Well, she moves on, the industry moves on, and we live in this golden age now.
And you're absolutely right.
Not 1983.
And it should be pointed out, you know, we've been going back through a lot of these historical anime, and, you know, a lot of longer form storytelling up to this point are very rocky. You know, anime had not figured this out yet.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. This is very much a part of its time and trying to figure out just kind of how to do it all. Yeah.
Which is great because I mean, like anything, like any kind of archaeology, is like you dig down through the layers to figure out what was the bedrock.
Yeah.
You know, how did they work? How do they work out stacking the first set of stones and then getting them to stay together, that you could build something out of the base elements?
Yep.
So yeah, entirely Dallos in its 1983 fury. Amazing. The 21st century, it's not so kind.
Yeah. Yes.
It just slaps Dallas.
Yeah. No, I agree. You know.
It's 1983. Do you realize how long ago that was?
Shut up.
Whew, yeah. Yeah. I mean, so we come a long way in those many decades.
In 5 years, it'll be the 50th anniversary of the original Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Or 6 years, I guess. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. That'll do
Thanks.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll take a quick break for just a few minutes, then we'll be back to talk about some more modern anime. Some stuff going on right now.
We'll come forward to the 21st century.
As I need the music to play me off dramatically to go to the toilet.
Exactly.
So.
And YouTube's not going to allow that. So.
And so, dun dun dun
Dun,
dun.
dun, dun.
Joyous.
Hello, everyone. We're back. Welcome back, everyone. Let's take a moment. Exactly. Take a moment, little breather, to talk about how our week has been and the anime we've been watching. Folks in the chat, please let us know how your week has been and what you've been watching lately on the anime or other geeky side of things. Exactly. John, how about you? What you been watching lately?
Again, keeping up with all the current season and trying to find time to. It was a different week.
Yeah.
There was an event this week.
Yes.
That occurred 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Back in the early part of the 1970s.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And a small otaku came into existence.
Oh.
Who has made it through to this point. And still otakuing hard after seminal experiences of Space Battleship Yamato, Marine Boy, Robotech, a.k.a. Macross, and here we are today.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yes, I've managed to survive the I've made the hump. Now I'm on the other side, which is kind of frightening concept, but still. And I went to go see, of course, Mugen Train Kimetsu no Yaiba.
Oh, yeah.
Sunday, it was a powerhouse moment because since you said you had seen it, and I wanted to go see it, and it was reasonably close by. I mean, literally like 5 minutes down the road. I was looking at the clock. I looked it up. And I was like, oh, there's a 3:45, and that was like noon.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'd gotten dogs walked and everything to take care of. I then did housework, moved stuff around, got some preliminary cooking done for the week. And I looked at the clock. I'm like, 3:15, 3:45. Am I done? Do I have enough stuff to? I gotta go. Ran out the door, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I should have planned for this better because there's gonna be a big line. There's gonna be all kinds of people going on. There were 5 people in the theater with me.
Yeah.
So I got to sit not front row center, but I got to sit center 4 rows back. So I had the entirety of the screen in front of me. And they had no indication that it was dubbed.
Oh, okay. Oh.
And I'm not the target audience for the film.
Okay. Yeah.
And because it's the most shonen-y shonen thing that ever showed a shonen of shonen's shonen. I'll just say shonen. And one of the characters that is a featured principal character in the first half of the film, the American voice actor kind of reminded me of the American voice actor for Rosewall from Ray Zero, where this kind of sort of semi-sing-songy voice, and I'm like, I'm going to scream at that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I got through it. I completely agree. I do not know what the special sauce is. I have no idea. I am entirely entertained, having seen it. I was entertained by it. I know now that I'm not the audience for it, but I feel like I understand some things about what's going on with the popularity of Kimetsu no Yaiba. But I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
It just literally is like a 2-hour-long episode. There's nothing that makes it outstandingly different than the series itself.
Yeah.
And the fight scenes are beautiful. The colors are beautiful. The direction of it is beautiful. It's
those opening shots of the folks wandering around the graveyard. But yeah, it's folks wandering
the Hirashi, the fire Hirashi.
Yeah.
Just the vibrancy of his costume is amazing. Heavy vibes of Naruto and somewhat of JoJo, just at the sort of vibrancy of some of the things.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just being who I am, looking at it trying to figure it out, I'm like, gosh, I guess if I had really invested heavily in the TV series, that this as an arc of that would really like strike a lot of the important zones,
Sure.
because you see characters show up who are part of the series, and some of the things that happen like link into that. It functions fine as self-contained, but I think there's a much richer experience if you are really committed to Demon Slayer as the TV show, the manga, and all the other related properties. That this, even as a self-contained arc, hits all those points. That if you're not linked in like that, it is an interesting anime film. It is a force of nature, and I can't wait in the next several years when you're like, okay, now we're going to be doing Kimetsu no Yaiba Mugen Train, and I'm going to be going, oh God, don't make me watch it again. You know, so. That was so it's been an eventful week.
Yeah, and
Nice.
Wesley, I think you're right. I think it's a combination of things. It's only thing in the theaters, so to speak, especially for otaku, right? It's not a lot else we're gonna go see. But yeah, I think there's a lot of. I think there's also P.T. Barnum once said, "Nothing draws a crowd like a crowd."
People who have a tendency to stand in lines to figure out what the line is for.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that is entirely true.
And so I think people, all of the otaku showed up for it, and then folks were like, "Why is everyone showing up for this movie? I should go see that movie." And so they go to see the movie, and like, "Oh, okay." And then, "Wow, my brother went to see the movie. I should go see that movie."
Yeah. And so I bought my ticket on the Mugen train, and I've arrived at the destination, and I can say I've now seen it.
There you go.
So
Yeah,
I
Jay,
belong.
Hey!
Oh,
Hey!
man.
We're real fans now.
Yeah, we're
man.
truly in the pocket of a great otaku.
I have not yet
Don't
ridden the
worry,
train.
You will.
Oh, I know. It's going to happen.
Peer pressure. Come on, Steve. Everybody else is doing it. Come on, man. Try
Come on,
it. You'll like it.
Come on. Demon
Just try
Slayer,
a little
Demon
bit
Slayer,
of it.
Demon Slayer.
Fine.
I can't take it anymore. Fine.
I just want to fit in.
Jay,
Yeah,
will
so-
answer your question about the golden age of anime. But Steve, how's yours
Yes.
been?
It has been very, very busy in the private life. So just driving back and forth from here to Gaithersburg and various familial stuff. So not a whole lot of anime. I had listened to a couple times the soundtrack to our wonderful little romp last week of last week's anime, and so I've been listening to that, kind of just deconstructing it, and just I think I'm gonna probably talk about it on the channel later on.
Cool.
For those of you who are wondering why I'm wearing the hat, is because the screen behind me, if I don't wear it, my hair, because it's gray, will disappear, and so you'll just see a face right here. It's just very creepy and creepy, and just seeing a disembodied.
Yeah.
So
Disembodied
that's
floating head.
hence that. So
Right.
just kind of doing that, but I did manage to sneak in a couple, and I don't ask me why I did. I just did because it's been probably a long time since I've seen it. A couple episodes of Strawberry Panic.
Oh wow! I love we had the exact same reaction.
Ah, like neat.
Yeah. So I was just like, I haven't watched that in a while. I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
like the romance,
Right.
Yeah.
I like those stories.
See, I go back and do that with Sekirei every once in a while, or Seitokai Yakuin Domo,
Mm-hmm.
where it's just like, just watch a little bit and be like, oh, I liked that show. Dog Days, which I watched 3 times. Same thing, where it's just like, sometimes it's nice to just go back and be like, oh, I remember that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strawberry Panic. Awesome. That's cool.
Absolutely. Cool. Dallos has been the only thing on my docket this week, mainly because this has been a week for my media fast. So every couple of months I go through a media fast, just no video, no books, no TV, no magazines, no blogs, none of that. It's really just like Monday through Friday of a week.
So not like otaku stuff, like literally like you put War and Peace down. for a
Correct.
week.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Mhm. Yeah, any and all mass media, basically.
Okay.
And just kind of a good detox, and also a really, really good time to get things done.
There is that.
So I got a lot of things done this week. Where I was like, oh, good, I'm caught up on everything. funny what happens when you're not, constantly, on YouTube until 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
I know nothing about that.
YouTube is evil. Wait.
And now the channel's been demonetized. Ah, damn it.
So starting to queue up a few things that I want to watch over the next week or two. So more to come on that, but fingers crossed. Jay earlier asked, and actually we'll get to the Golden Age thing in a second, but he was saying that he was reading some Spy X Family, which I have the next volume of that sitting on my Kindle. And I saw a news story this week. Spy X Family, it was announced, gets an adaptation novel. I was like,
so close to an
anime. So close to an anime.
Not there yet. Well, I've seen more buzz about Spy Family or Spy X Family. Yeah, since you started talking about it, it's like all of a sudden I started noticing like little bits and pieces. Like I'm like, oh wow, okay, so this is apparently getting like a lot more
traction.
I'm like,
yeah, someday it will come. Jay asked, "What, in our opinion, is the golden age of anime?" I'm going to throw it to you guys first. What's the golden age of anime?
Nobody's going to like my answer. I'm not going to like my answer.
What is your answer?
For technical capability, that's not what I'm looking at.
Sure.
I'm looking at more, certainly my experience, but also the process, the beginning of the path. And I'm gonna shoot for the late 70s into the 80s.
Okay.
Because of a lot of things like Gundam, a lot of things like Macross, a lot of things, even though they're robot and big space adventure, a lot of stuff's happening in that time period where you already have proof of concept, and now you're getting up to a point where like you're getting funding, you're getting technical competency, and you're getting these long stories, and you're getting this concept about telling an epic tale that you don't. Okay, fine. You come forward out of that time period, you start seeing budgets shrinking, you start seeing series going from 26, 30, 50 episodes down to like 24, 12. And the technical capacity of the animation gets better, and the integration of new technology into it, so that by the time you get to the 90s and the 2000s, visually you've got a revolution in how things are presented. But it's that footwork in that late 70s period into the 80s where you get these people who are into the 90s and 2000s, kids themselves, who then see these things, and it's one of those things where it's like, I can do better than that. And as they watch, as they develop and they cut their teeth on it, they progress the entirety of the medium forward better than it was then. But I think that's such a seminal period of time for a lot of how things are today, that for me, I think that's the golden age, at least from that perspective.
Well, you're wrong. Steve, what do you think?
You, sir, are wrong.
You couldn't be more wrong. I'm embarrassed for you. Now shut up.
Now go to the pit of Dallos.
Yeah. Watch Dallos 5 times repeatedly without stopping. Oh, God, no, not that.
Oh no, I'd do Idion 5 times in a row.
Oh, jeez.
I'm still getting there. Hold on.
Yeah. Just wait till you get to the movies.
Lanale, Idion.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Oi.
After we're done here, John, I'm going to show you the opening shot of the second Idion movie. Because that's a moment.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy. All right. Okay.
Steve, what do you think is the goal?
So for me, it changes from
daily.
Time almost literally. I would have to say that for me, again, it's actually a little bit of technical of like okay, now we're starting to get into our own in cell work, and it's actually progressing. Things are a little bit smoother, and things like that. And but I'm also concentrating more on the fact that the stories are more developed. I'm not saying they're good, but they're more developed. And so the time frame that for me, once upon a time, I would have actually said, mid 70s to mid 80s would have been the golden age, for a variety of reasons. For right now, at this point where I'm at now, I was about to make a 50-year-old joke, but then I just realized what's going to happen to me next month. Anyway, moving right along. So I'm going to have to say, and this is going to sound weird because it's very precise, 1988 to 1998. And
the age of Akira.
Basically, yeah. So starting with Akira and ending with Bebop. That's exactly right.
Okay.
So, and the reasons for that is I feel that at that point in time, the technical stuff had before the cell work had been pretty solid at this point through this time range, and you start getting more coherent, more cohesive stories, you're getting more of the idea of the 26 episode story arc plots,
right?
And things like that, and you're starting to get more incorporation. Not that it hadn't happened before, but now you start getting more incorporation of other things involved. As I faded out,
your ghost is back.
But like music and other things that are getting involved with it, the advent of DVD and stuff that comes along with it that you weren't getting before, and a more and most important to me is that this is about the time that American otakus really came into being. About this time, because this is when stuff started hitting video stores and you could start renting these things, and pretty soon everybody wanted to see Akira.
Come on, syndication in the 70s, early 80s made otakus. It just didn't.
It did. But that's what I'm saying.
A lot of them.
No, that's what I'm saying is that this was the time where it just created the whole batch. It wasn't that the original, the OG otaku were already there, but this is just kind of brought a lot of people into the fold. And then in 1998, I think that's about where I see more advanced technologies coming into anime, CGI, computer, that kind of stuff. Different methods of doing things. Like when Metropolis came out, a couple of years after, Bebop, I was just like, like, holy crap,
how do you do that?
You do that, yeah. So that's my goal. That's what I think.
Well, you're wrong.
Two wrongs. What makes it right?
There we are.
Off to the pit of Dallos I go.
So
throw him to the Sarlacc.
With epic music playing the whole time, though. I actually kind of agree with both of you, because the issue is that I think people use Golden Age in one of two big meanings. There is what was the height of the medium, when was the medium firing on all cylinders, and then there is like the Golden Age of science fiction or the Golden Age of comics, where things were rough in the age of Kirby and the age of Asimov and Clark and Heinlein and all that kind of stuff. Definitely it was early days. But you can see just all the foundation being laid back then. So,
pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. They were going over the dunes to lay the foundation to rendezvous with Rama. Anyway.
Rama. Rama.
Oh, Rendezvous with Rama. That's a book we should.
That's a thing. That's a slog.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Arthur C. Clarke. I thought that was an interesting.
Songs from Distant Earth. That's his best.
See, I like Rama.
I do too. It's just His Childhood's End. That's a book.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, okay.
Back to anime.
So in terms of foundation, I think it's late 70s, early 80s. It's basically, really, it's like 1979 through 1983, roughly, is really where you see the coalescing, where you see, actually maybe 70, when did Heidi come out? Heidi Girl of the Alps, whatever that was.
75?
75, yeah. So maybe like 75
Wow.
through 82. Because you start seeing, in my opinion, Heidi is the earliest anime I'm aware of that really feels like a smoothly executed story all the way through. They had a plan, they executed it, all worked out, right? Everything's there. And you can
They actually had a planning committee
yeah.
to sort of get things coordinated across functional teams.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you had people who were, thinking through, okay, how do we present this? How do we tell the story in anime? And you have like Anne of Green Gables. You have Rose of Versailles, which is kind of reinventing shoujo. You have Gundam. You have Macross. You have all of these things. It really did kind of lay all those foundations. In terms of the medium at its peak, I think it is. I was actually thinking about this, and 88 through 98 kind of came to my mind too, as the dates. But I think it is like mid 80s through late 90s, because you have the full flowering of the production system, where now you could imagine a story and execute that and just make it happen. You didn't have to kind of build all the tools to make that happen. But it was also a time of high budgets in general and of great experimentation. So you got lots of weird things. The medium evolved a lot during
Angel's
the 90s.
Egg.
Angel's Egg. Heck, Outlaw Star, Cowboy Bebop, Lane, Saber Marionette J, all this weird stuff out there, where you could just kind of play around with the medium, and everyone understood. It was also a time of a certain amount of playfulness with the medium, where you could just kind of throw something weird out there, like My Dear Marie, which I've talked about here, that I love. Because it was just, let's just do this fun, weird thing in anime. And you have that going on there. And that said, we might be going through a mini golden age right now.
And I was just going to ask that. I'm like, how do you right now, given the breadth and variety and technical capacity, 10 years from now, we could easily be looking back and being like, wow, let's talk an explosion that's occurred in this period, in the next decade of the 21st century, where there's just so much product coming out.
And you look at and obviously it's, speaking of, you have Sturgeon's Law, right? 90% of everything is crap. But, you look at things like Laid Back Camp. You look at, I know. You look at Demon Slayer. You look at Attack on Titan. You look at all these shows that are big and huge and also have a big budget and, like, really know how to do that. Like, Attack on Titan does not look like your average anime series.
Yeah.
And it's very... Demon Slayer does not look like your average anime series. So, yeah, I think that's a really cool thing, is that we have a lot coming out now that's really impressive. What's the anime series about the girls going to Antarctica?
The place further than the universe.
Right, like, that's a very 90s kind of anime.
Right.
So, yeah, I think we have that going now. Maybe it's the Silver Age. I don't know. Made in Abyss. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've got things like I love Copcraft. It was a great little show. Nobody talks about it, and it's one season gone. We're at a point, even though we've got, we've settled kind of on the 12, 24, 36 format, we have a ton of 12s that show up now. And it's like, okay, I wouldn't go so far as to say they were like, groundbreaking experimental, 12 episode series, but we do genuinely have the money that's going into creating 12 episode series from kind of obscure source material. Some of them hit, get a 24, some of them don't. But we get a lot of them that are just being fired off, and they're not done half-assed. They're not bad. They're perfectly good properties, and they're just not hitting a target, but they keep producing them.
Well,
so it's like we're at a time where there's a lot of stuff going on here that's,
Well, it's like people complain, why don't we have Asimov and, Heinlein reinventing science fiction? Where's today's Asimov? Where's today's Heinlein? It's like they were there because there was very little science fiction being written, and there are very few rules, so everything they did, it reinvented new things.
Right.
The science fiction, literary medium is very mature now, and so that really doesn't happen anymore unless you're doing the three-body problem. And so I think in anime, you're not going to see another Gundam, another Macross, another Yamato. It's just not where the medium is. What we want is a lot of product that is iterating, that is moving things along a little ways. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you'll certainly see like the gymnast series that we saw the first episode of.
Mm-hmm.
You're certainly going to see far greater technical capacity going forward. So you might not see somebody who is like genre breaking, like just shatters the entirety of the anime world. But what you're going to see is greater technical integration of systems and processes that will then shape the way that anime moves forward in a way that Matt Stone and Trey Parker can produce topical South Park episodes in short order because of the technology that they use. Versus the process that The Simpsons involve, where one episode takes 3 to 6 to 8 months to generate, that you can't be as topical because you're in process. So we'll see that as, I think, landscape shaping as we get faster production, easier, smoother transition with the technical capacity.
Phil in the chat says maybe the last sci-fi anime that was revolutionary was maybe Psycho-Pass. I might argue Land of the Lustrous from a pure technical CGI perspective, but
that was pretty smooth.
But it was very weird. It was. No, put it this way. I think Land of the Lustrous was groundbreaking from an animation CGI technical perspective, but maybe not so much in the pure sci-fi, changing how people think kind of way.
Yeah, its story was not mind-shattering. It was it was the fluidity of the process. That what was going on wasn't jerky. It wasn't weirdly sort of in out of context where it's in the space where you're like, no, that doesn't fit there. That's kind of weird. It's overlaid on something. No, it was entirely well integrated and fluid in its motion. That Land of the Lustrous was pretty damn cool. Again, for story, story. I wasn't watching it for the story. I was watching it for just holy crap, this is cool.
And unfortunately, so spoiler alert, they just stop. They just adapt the first, I think, 4 volumes of the manga, and that's just the series, and it basically ends you've come to the characters have gone through growth and so forth and so on, and you don't stop in the middle of something. But it's not and then we tie up all the plot. It's there's plenty more that's going to come. This is just all we got to. So
it's done. Yeah, and it's done in the first season in not a way that's unsatisfying.
No, absolutely. Right.
I mean, you don't need, in the way that's done. It's so visually lush. That it's hard to say well, I hate that the story didn't come to a conclusion. It's no, I when Phil and I were watching it, I'm just watching these giant Buddhist Hindu boats coming down out of the sky, just trying to absorb all the detail and the movement. And I'm I have no idea how this is functioning. I'm this is amazing.
Absolutely.
That the story became really secondary. I'm I just amazed.
And I want to go back to what you were saying about the gymnast anime. I can totally imagine that anime made in 1986, right?
Right. Yeah.
I can imagine that gymnast anime, and there would have been about 20 seconds of fluid gymnast animation, halfway in, and everything else would be pose,
right?
And then cut to the cut to the audience reacting ooh ah, it's just we've moved. Like we definitely have moved along technically.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's a great point, Jay. I think Shield Hero was definitely a turning point in the isekai genre because there was very much a mold that Shield Hero very much broke.
Yeah,
that is definitely true. But it's a good question. What was the last revolutionary? Anyway,
the last revolutionary would have been Revolutionary Girl. No. No.
Revolution. So I want to get this real quick. Wesley asks, how do you deal with anime fatigue? There are some series that I want to watch, but I just don't have the energy to watch, but I want to watch them. So what I want to address here is not so much like otaku fatigue, where you're like, I don't want to watch any anime. It's just like, these things on my queue, like keep sitting there on my queue, and I do want to get to them, but I just haven't gotten to them. What's the deal there? How do you guys do that?
Yeah, Koi Muso, Wandering Sun. God, I want to get to that show.
Mm-hmm.
And I just... there comes a point where you just have to accept the fact that when you are in the mindset for a comedy slice of life, that's all you're going to do. Do not force... Don't watch... No, this is not to say Lane, but I'm just picking Lane.
Yeah.
If you're really in the mood for like lighthearted, funny comedy, do not sit down and say... On my queue, I have Lane.
Yeah.
I have to watch Lane today. I feel like today's a good, funny day.
Mm-hmm.
Let's watch this. Love of God, no. Just don't do it.
I don't know what you're talking about. I found Lane very funny.
Oh, I'm sure it was lighthearted comedy all the way. You were laughing entirely. But the point being, for the fatigue part, is like you have to watch the things that you're mentally prepared for, and if you have to gird up to it, and it takes a month to gird up to it, it takes a month.
Mm-hmm.
Don't force, because you will hate stuff if you're not in the right place to watch it. Mirai Nikki was not going to be fun after I've watched like their Days of the Breakwater. You know what I mean? I'm not going to watch a slice of life fishing show and then jump into Future Diary.
Yeah,
it's you know, the things that you have to get to, that you self-imposed have to get to, put them someplace where you're mentally ready for it, and that will ease your fatigue.
Yeah.
It will stop like brain shock.
One of the, with one of the hard things for me right now is with now that my life has been, of course, everybody's lives have been upended by COVID. Now that I'm in this new-ish job where my schedule has changed immensely, and, life stuff happens. So I find my anime watching time, shortened, unfortunately. But to John's point, if there's something that you're interested in, if there's something in your wheelhouse, go, watch that, but don't burn yourself out. Don't, just tell yourself. The way I look at it is in terms of the functional view, is that when I go to a convention, when I go to a convention, I want to see anime. I actually, and I write down what I want to see. And I find the 2-hour format good.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, if you do want to watch, say, something you're in the mood for Lane, and you want to watch 2 hours of that, that's a stopping point. Then you just stop. And you can either call it a day, or you can move on to the next thing that you want to watch. But as John was saying, make sure it's something that you want to watch. Don't feel like that you are going to watch something just because it's in your queue and you just want to get it out. Then that becomes work. And so it becomes a slog. It becomes work, and you really don't want to do that. That happened to me the first time I tried to watch Rose of Versailles.
Oh,
I heard right.
Yeah.
So I heard so much about it, and then I was just like going, okay. I need to watch it. It's classical anime. It's whatever, kind of in my wheelhouse a little bit. Fine, I just watch it. I sat there and I got through 2 episodes, and I was just like, forget it. And it took me 3 years to get back to it.
Yeah.
And then finally watched it again, because I was in, as John said,
in
the mood to watch it, and I watched it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it afterwards.
I'm laughing because first off, Rose of Versailles is the most melodramatic thing
it is
ever made by humanity. But because I wanted to show a friend of mine a moment from Rose of Versailles. So I went on YouTube, and the first clip I found is a clip. I'm just going to say it. I mean, it's technically a spoiler, but it's like episode 7, and like you can, yeah, anyway. In which a girl is approached by the man she is betrothed to, who so horrifies her that she proceeds to run out into the fountain in the rain, try to scrub it off, try to scrub her hands down, then climbs up onto the roof and throws herself off the roof to the cobblestones below. She's 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, welcome to Rose of Versailles. You know, it is not a light series. It is rough.
Wow. Yeah. If you're not mentally ready for that kind of seriousness, that could be like off-putting to the point of 3 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, you watch the clip, and then like you see how characters react to it, and there's this amazing reaction from the other characters, which is really tugs on your heartstrings in a way that's not silly, in a way that's like, oh my gosh, like they really put this together really well, and the voice acting and so forth. But like that's it's like, and that's like 3 minutes of this show. It's just, oh geez. There's a reason Rose of Versailles was like a big deal. I've not read the Rose of Versailles manga. I mean, I do not know, unfortunately. And yeah, those hardcover releases look gorgeous. I do not know. I think Rise of Versailles is the sequel. But it's Rose of Versailles, and then Rise of Versailles is the 26th episode sequel series where the mecha shows up. And then Versailles is... I'm joking.
Say, wow, okay, what?
And they all run to Dallos.
Yes, exactly.
That's where you're introduced to Dallas and how it gets to the moon.
Yeah.
There we go. It all comes
Versailles.
back.
It's all it all.
Okay, let's look at my mood chart. Crazy, wacky crap. That's way over there.
Yeah.
I'll get there someday.
That's an interesting idea, Jay. That is another thing I will do to an extent too. Is I will just, spin the wheel and pick something random. Just to kind of break through if I'm feeling kind of stuck. Sometimes that helps to even break the logjam on shows I want to see. I just need to see something completely different and kind of get the mood back. Sometimes that helps.
See, that's why I've gone back to things like Dog Days.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some of the series that I have, and that's probably how Laid Back Camp will work going forward. Mm-hmm. They don't continue with Laid Back Camp. It's going to end up as like sort of a reset. Because it's like when I get like so much stuff on the plate and there's so many, it goes in so many different directions. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I will just stop it. Be like, nope.
Yeah.
Time to go back to Dog Days.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just watch, kitty puppy girls and this guy running around and fun stuff, and it's all great. And then that like completely wipes the board, resets me, and then I can start again.
Mm-hmm.
So like sometimes that's you got to do that.
Wesley wants Steve to make an anime clip of Who Shot JR out of anime clips.
Okay.
Just find anime clips and just reassemble Who Shot JR as I think.
Okay. Duly noted. Duly
noted. Kidding, by the way. That's not what Wesley, but anyway. It's tough, and I totally agree, John. I think, and Steve as well. I think it's one of those things where you have to let yourself feel how you're feeling, and just pace it out. The other problem.
You said you've been in a media blackout for a week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, so for somebody, they might have a show that can help them reset, or they might do that. Just like cold turkey for a week, let everything sort of settle out.
Yeah.
And then start again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a fairly good psychological thing to do as well.
Yeah, totally.
Brent's not crazy at all.
No, he's not forcing us to do this. No.
We're not under threat. Send help.
SOS.
Click, click, click.
Yeah.
No.
Now I no longer have co-hosts. Oh, damn it.
JR was shot. It was not a dream, as I recall. But the big reveal was who actually shot JR.
Who shot JR?
The sad thing is, I remember watching that.
If
well,
you're
Luke and Laura's wedding from General Hospital.
I did.
Just about as many people tuned into that as Charles and Diana's wedding,
Mm-hmm.
the royal wedding.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there was a time in the '80s when people were that obsessed with those things.
And if you want to watch any of those, soap opera moments, don't, and instead watch Twin Peaks. Because, Twin Peaks is just much more interesting, frankly. And it's 2 seasons, and you're done, and it's great.
Yeah, it's got a lot of craziness in there, too.
3 now.
I really like this coffee.
Cherry pie. Love some cherry pie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Kyle
Damn fine pie.
Post dude.
Back in the
But
day.
not really.
Yeah.
I
Space
love Above and Beyond. Wait a minute, no.
No. Was he in Space Above and Beyond?
No.
Oh, good.
Just naming off like random things that like
Because I was like,
we all enjoyed, but then they
if
just...
Kyle MacLachlan was in Space Above and Beyond, I have a DVD box set to order right now.
No, not that I'm aware of. It could have been a cameo. Yeah.
Actually, the cure-all to the logjam, to
Mm-hmm.
anime fatigue, is, and it's a reset, so to speak.
Dallos?
Onsen?
No,
Okay,
not
all right.
Onsen could be one
Okay,
thing.
yeah.
But I was thinking, because speaking, you're talking about Twin Peaks, the show,
Mhm.
and I was thinking of Laura Flynn Boyle,
Mm.
and I was thinking about one of her first movies, which was The Wraith.
Okay. I have not seen that.
Oh, in your
I've certainly
search
not.
of 80s and 90s, Brent, in search of your 80s and 90s movies that you like to watch, a
Wraith.
very young Charlie Sheen and Laura Flynn Boyle, and she looks radically different. And it's a very touching story about a boy being murdered and comes back as a ghost that turns into a car and murders his murderers.
Turns into a car?
Yes.
As in Christine?
But more like a really bad prefab job chassis set onto a a Ford Cutlass, but it's supposed to be looking.
I'm gonna okay.
Wait.
I'm gonna say okay. I built the Wikipedia article for this. Johnny, you ready?
Oh, God, yeah.
Charlie Sheen, Randy Quaid,
Yep.
and Clint Howard.
And it's about as magical as that sounds.
Oh, that's... I would imagine if I was the production supervisor, I'd be like, who? Who'd you hire? Oh, no. This is not going to go well.
So my question is...
Was it the biggest box office hit ever?
Oh, it is available streaming on Prime right
Yes,
now.
absolutely.
Oh,
Actually, if you have an internet connection, you can find it.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
Everywhere.
it was so good. It's on like general distribution everywhere for free. Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
So before we move on, so I may have mentioned this before. When my mom was a housewife back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, mostly the 70s, I guess. Anyway, everyone else talked about all these soap operas, and she just wasn't into soap operas. She just wasn't interested. But there's a new soap opera coming on. She's like, okay, they're premiering a new soap opera. Okay, I'll give it a try. Since starting, I'll know all the plots from the beginning. And so she sits down to watch the first episode of Dark Shadows.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah. That was...
You almost got a spit take out of Steve if he had been drinking at that moment. Holy cow. Dark Shadows. Wow.
Dark Shadows.
The pretty lady who gives me food is now the pretty lady who gives me drink.
Nice.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
I think that's an improvement. Yeah, so she picked it up. Dark Shadows, and
Good
she's
Lord.
one of these people who this is a weird story. She used to help my sister clean houses as a side gig. So my sister wanted to make money as a teenager, so my mom would go and help her do that. And one day she was in somebody's house and she looked down and she saw a book in their trash. And was like, oh, don't throw away books. And she picked it up,
Right.
and it was this science fiction book.
Do you still have it?
Apparently.
Yes, I still have it with me.
Oh, wow.
Because it's this science fiction book.
What's it?
It is Frank Herbert's Dune.
What?
That she pulled out of the thing, came home, and said, "You like science fiction? Give this a try."
Oh.
And handed it to me, and that's how I got introduced to Dune. So she was aware of sci-fi and fantasy. She was not against sci-fi or fantasy. She didn't like consume it herself, but she fine, whatever. So Dark Shadows came on, and she was like, "Okay, vampires. Okay, I'll give I'll give it a shot."
That's oh my God, that's like giving heroin to a marijuana smoker. You just don't do that.
This is awesome. Vampires, long form story format. Sure,
Sure,
exactly.
I'll go for it.
And so she got a couple weeks in, and she lasted that long, and it was like, this is the stupidest show I've ever. Well, it wasn't that it was stupid. It was so cheap, she just couldn't take it seriously. You know, the falling blinds in the middle of a scene, all this crazy stuff that was happening, where one take for everything, and she was like, "This is just nuts."
Was it Days of Our Lives and all the rest of those? They started out with like super cheap too originally.
Yeah.
So.
Although I have seen it's worth Mystery Science Theater back in the day did a couple episodes of the original General Hospital. The black and white General Hospital.
Air.
Yeah. Yeah. And holy smokes, it's dramatic. Like it was staged at watching it, I was like, I'm actually involved in this and invested in this. It is an Ibsen play. Like it just draws you in as this really tight thing. The smart thing they did is that it's more like a stage play. It's full scale sets, but it's very intimate. Seeing how characters are reacting to things.
There are very tight shots.
Very tight shots, and it's they'll start with somebody doing something. And taking a swig of alcohol or whatever, and then going out into the party. You're like,
right.
Oh, gotcha. And so it's all those little things that they layer in. I was like, I can see why this caught on.
Well, I was gonna say if you watched it during the Port Charles and the weather control Dominator thing that happened in the 1980s with Luke and Laura and Scorpio.
Scorpio, come on!
It was just this riveting drama.
I think the Weather Dominator was invented by Destro for Cobra Commander.
Which I can't imagine. This is no joke. I can't imagine there was not a little bit of cross seeding there because
maybe.
Somebody who makes a weather domination device and launches it on General Hospital, they didn't just come up with. Yeah, they didn't just come up with it like magically. And I'm sure GI Joe was like, "Hey, hold on a second here."
I love it.
Yeah, the Cassidites. Oh, geez, Steve, taking me back. Flashbacks. God, no.
So what was the name of the actor who was the singer and had the hit? Forget his name.
Jenny, who do I turn? Rick Springfield.
No, not Rick Springfield. God damn, you're right there. It was him. It was later on. It was during the Weather Dominator where he worked with the secret spy agency that Scorpio used to work with.
Jeez, I don't remember.
I
do know that Laura is married to Jonathan Frakes.
Oh, nice.
So that actress is married to William Riker. I was just like, the first time I saw it, I'm like, really? Oh my gosh, really?
Well, I got to see
fanboy
that.
moment.
Well, I got to see that actor play Danny in Grease.
Oh wow!
Whoa.
At Ford's
Nice.
Ford's Theater, I think it was Ford's.
Damn.
And one of the guys that was in the actual original movie was actually in that movie.
Oh, cool!
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang. Cool. Was it a one-shot deal?
Did y'all hear that?
Oh, sorry. I couldn't help it. I didn't. I know. The wheels were spinning. I'm like, oh, how do we do this? Oh, hey.
Again, you realize.
I know.
Oh my
Okay, 1 second. Because I did not have time to do the.
Hat. What?
god. Oh.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
There we go.
Okay.
Just took a minute.
I was worried for a second it was going to be the BoJack Horseman thing again.
Not quite.
Not exactly.
Welcome to the latest anime news for the week ending May 15th, 2021. So, some of Japan's biggest names in publishing, namely Kodansha, Shogakukan, and Shueisha, announced this week that they'll be teaming up with trading company Marubeni to start a new publisher-driven distribution business. Fine, right? The business plans to use artificial intelligence to determine where the demand is for various books and get them there as fast as possible and, quote, optimize the entire publishing distribution, end quote.
Wow.
So we all just gamed the system.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Red pill, blue pill. Before, they would sell their books to a distributor, which is like a middleman,
Right.
who would then sell the books to stores around Japan. With the new system, the new subsidiary owned and operated by the four companies will be able to sell straight to stores and to directly control where the books are using the AI system and tags in the packaging. The idea is to cut down on the increasing number of returns that have been occurring as well as stabilize
Right.
profits. And for those not familiar, basically the way it would work is that an individual store would say, that book is coming out, we'll take 100. 100 books would show up, and then whichever, they would sell 65, and then they would just return the other 35 back to the publisher, say, we didn't sell these, too bad, give us our money back for the 35. That's how publishing traditionally works. And so, what you want is to make sure everything is kind of working, and those margins are thin. But it doesn't always happen. And it's very expensive for the publisher, who basically just has to eat the cost of all those books that they get returned. Now, while these companies are largely known for manga in the Western world, they, along with Kadokawa, control most of the publishing business in Japan, including the Japanese publication of international books. Ooh. So, yeah, that's the thing, is there are like 4 major publishing houses in Japan that kind of control everything.
Wow.
And now they're handing it all over to the machines. Yeah.
Which is interesting, because I'm assuming that means that the overages that they put on like fire sale,
yeah,
that's going to end.
Yep.
But you're not going to see like super deals anymore, because this AI is going to like crank it to a point where there's going to be handfuls of series that don't get sold,
Right.
but like hardly any. Like,
Right.
So yeah, that's going to be the end of. How Barnes and Nobles and what board used to be Borders used to do when you get those like really cut rate, like cheap classic books that you find in like the big cardboard bin,
Yeah.
dig through. That is bought by pound. It's not by book, it's or anything like that. So literally they sell. Okay, we're gonna have about a pallet's worth of this. So that's gonna be about 900 pounds. Okay, here you go. So they purchase it by weight, which means that the book is usually cents on the dollar. Then they of course sell for like $4, and so they make them out crazy margin.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the end of that, which in a way is not the worst thing. But I'm just thinking of the Flight of the Conchords song, "The Robots." where they, basically a song about, all the humans are dead. It's fine. We're in charge now. So,
The Quiet Country Cafe.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
Time of Eve. Sans people.
Yeah, pretty much.
It'll be very interesting. It just occurs to me, it's like, okay, well, you have these extra lots that you can sell off by pallet that you've got some extra stuff going. I wonder to what degree the very few that come back, could you, and this sounds terrible, but could you, as the great publisher houses look at it, auction that? Say, this series is entirely sold out except for these 12 books. Now we're going to put these 12 books on Japan eBay and let people bid them up.
So the issue there is that the reason they're being sent back to the publisher is because they didn't sell.
Right.
So
but
the likelihood of an auction,
Well, you're going to have some that won't. The AI is going to be pretty close, but you're always going to have some amount that don't. It's like, that would be an interesting way to be like, oh, this is an entirely sold out series, and these are the last 3. Bid for them, people. Bid for them. Dance for me, my pretties. Dance for me. You know what I mean? It's like, that would be interesting.
Well, and what I'm curious about is what they're going to plug the AI into. Because, and to be clear, when this is AI in the sense of like big models to figure out where to move things around. Right. It's not like, type question into computer, it responds.
Would you like to play a game?
Exactly, yes.
Open that bay doors, Hal.
Can entropy be reversed?
That, Dave.
There's insufficient data for reasonable answer to the question. One of the best Asimov stories of all time. Anyway, it all comes back to Asimov. The idea is, it absolutely makes sense to plug AI into the kind of distribution equation and say, okay, given all of these past trends of what books have or haven't sold, given that this book is in the following genres, how does it fit? The question to me is, do you factor in pricing? Do you have the AI say, and you should sell it for $4.99? Do you plug it into stuff like geographic distribution? Nobody buys science fiction in Hokkaido or whatever.
Right.
I can't imagine that you wouldn't try to put that much data as possible in there.
True.
But my question is that how does this affect online books?
Good question.
Like on your Kindle and your various things, because it makes sense from a physical paper point of view. But what about the online stuff? So does this mean that does that you do demographics on sites?
I don't think so, because if the article is accurate and the driver is specifically the number of returns they're getting of physical books, then it sounds like that's really not a factor. Right. They're really just trying to fix that returns thing. It would be very interesting, I completely agree, to do that kind of data mining, though, and to say, this goes big on Amazon Kindle, this is on the Barnes and Noble Nook, is that what they have?
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. And it is kind of the ideal use of AI, is to say, it's not just the fact that these simple sales numbers work. Historical romances sell really well on Kindle. Okay, let's push those on the Kindle more. Like, let's beef up that thing, which we would never have noticed if we hadn't had somebody looking at every possible genre all the time. So, who knows? Sorry. Things shifted around a little bit. Moving right along, in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic and the many changes it's brought, especially to travel, the Japanese Agency for Cultural Affairs has created a new long-term art exhibition to be held at 7 airports across Japan, as well as Tokyo International Cruise Terminal, with the goal to connect people and culture through art. The exhibition is titled Culture Gate to Japan, and brings together artists of all kinds, as well as creative groups to depict various aspects of Japanese culture. The official website describes the project, Japanese culture is more diverse than you might imagine. And so they're bringing in folks from various cultures, from This is from the website. From the mysterious world of the Ainu in the north to the vibrant history of the Ryukyu Kingdom in the southern islands of Okinawa. Okay. The exhibition's first section began in the Kansai airport.
Cringy.
Yeah, a little cringy.
Cultural appropriation.
A little bit.
Okay, that's all right.
But the exhibition features the art of 8 native and local Kansai manga artists, demonstrating the theme of coexistence with nature. So these 8 creators have contributed one-of-a-kind art pieces, showcasing unique aspects of the region that many may not notice at first glance. The event will continue the different themes across locations throughout the year, with art installations of all kinds evoking different cultural subjects. There's also a virtual component on the official website, which is also available in English, which also includes information and background on the creators and the cultures they're depicting, as well as the art installations themselves and how they aim to evoke their subjects. There are also even English language YouTube videos on each section.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So this is interesting, I think, because you have a large-scale kind of cultural exhibition going on in a very public space, lots of foot traffic, but it's not like, but it's focusing specifically on like manga creations. Well, not just this, but it is showcasing manga creations by artists, which I think is an interesting sort of take on it, because it's long-form storytelling, right? It's not like, here's a painting of Mount Fuji, here's a couple of pages from this manga that's a longer-form story about what's going on. So, interesting.
Well, hopefully that means with these installations at airports means that we'll, as international travelers, get a chance to see them.
Yes, yes.
Hint, hint.
Yes. When the 3 of us go to Japan, we will try to take photos of this in the airport.
And if we don't, we'll just take photos of BWI and people sleeping on the benches and not in Japan.
And Photoshop in the art exhibition website photos on top of that.
just Mount Fuji in the background. Walking around downtown Baltimore and this Mount Fuji in the background. Hey, it's great. No. What?
If this trip doesn't happen, I may hold you to that.
Oh, God.
Do a whole video on our trip to Japan.
It's all local areas with just Fuji in the background. I'll have to buy a gunpla kit and build like the unicorn and be like, and just carry it with me, like, and try to do the perspective thing, like put it on a wall and then stand like far away from it, be like, look how big this is. That's obviously the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. No, it's somewhere in Ryukyu, kingdom thing.
Oh, we have to do this now.
This is Shinjuku, not the red light district.
Here we are in Isekai in Ginza. We're not at a dive bar in like Timonium. Oh, cool. Neat.
Oh dear. Moving along. Have no transition for that. In news that probably surprises absolutely no one, the Demon Slayer Mugen Train film has officially reached its next astounding record. As tallied this week, the film officially stands as the #1 highest earning film worldwide in 2020, period. It has earned $435 million outside of the U.S. and nearly $40 million within the U.S. so far. This sounds impressive already, but it's even more impressive with a piece of added context. Mugen Train is the first non-Hollywood or non-American film to top the yearly worldwide box office since the beginning of cinema.
Wow.
Damn.
And in case you had forgotten, the film debuted in October of 2020.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like it's 10 years down the road.
I mean, it only had
for
2.5 months of 2020 to build that.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah.
How long did it take Spirited Away to earn its cash earnings?
That's a good question. Not too long, I think. It came in pretty quick.
This quick?
No. Well, and also you didn't have that's just a good question. Because it seemed to me that Spirited Away came out in Japan a little while before it hit in America.
Right.
It premiered in. Wow, times have changed. It premiered July 20th, 2001 in Japan. Released December 20th, 2002 in the United States. Year and a half.
Wow.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So it probably took a while for all that money to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus Mugen Train.
Mm-hmm.
It's just quick do it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was what, 6 months ago?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
um.
And like I said, I agree with you. I don't know what the special sauce was, but holy crap!
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. A lot of folks with nothing else to watch.
Yeah.
Moving along, this is just a fun little note. Nozomi Entertainment announced this week it'll be releasing the entire Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei anime franchise in North America, including all 3 TV series in the OVA. They announced the initial license of the franchise in July 2019, but it was delayed because all of the Japanese scripts were lost. Like, they licensed it and then said, hey, folks, can you send us the scripts? And they're like, scripts? What? Must
We
be in this
had
box
those?
here. Nope, it's not there. Nope, it couldn't find them. So the translator had to translate all of them by ear.
Oh my God.
Put it on. Start typing.
Oh, what?
And-
Gee, I hope
Is
that
that what
person
they
got
do
a
with
lot of
Dallos?
money. Oh, jeez, yeah.
And if you've seen Zetsubo Sensei, you know how much like on-screen text there is.
Yes, there is.
Ah.
Oh, wow.
So that's why it's been a while.
So the translator went mad.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how long that would take to hear it, to do it by ear.
Mm-hmm.
I know,
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, because now Google Translate's not great, but at least it gets a good portion of things. So it's like, if you could scan something in and be like, okay, looking at what it's scanned, it's 75% correct. So I just have to tweak some of it to get it to be in the right
Here's
place.
what's interesting.
But to listen to it entirely.
Yeah. I wonder if that's in some cases easier because the script might not necessarily match what they recorded. I wonder how often that happens.
Ad-lib factor?
Yeah.
Huh. I wonder how often that happens. And this actually comes up. There was there's Stephen Fry tells a story. He is the British audiobook announcer for the Harry Potter series.
Yep.
And so he was brought on to do this back when it was, another children's book. And he started doing the audiobooks for it. And there is in the third book, there is a line where it says, Harry pocketed it. And Stephen Fry, who has a lovely classic British voice, think, British upper crust voice, it's kind of Stephen Fry. And it was just, Harry pocketed it, Harry pocketed it, Harry pocketed it. And there was just something about it that he just couldn't get the line out.
Right.
And it turns out J.K. Rowling was very, very clear from the get-go. She said, if there's an audiobook of this, it has to match it word for word because children are going to be listening to the audiobook while they read it. They're going to be using it as supplementary to, learn it and understand the words and so forth and so on. So the words have to match exactly. So he called up J.K. Rowling and said, I'm having this issue. I just can't say this word. Can I just say, Harry put it in his pocket? There was this moment. She said, no.
Wow. How flexible.
And they made a fairly big deal about Stephen Fry, well-known actor, was doing this thing. It was kind of a big deal that he was doing this, and so there was a certain amount of no, that's your job. Like make sure you do that. He said, and then the other thing is Harry pocketed it is a line in every subsequent Harry Potter book.
Little payback.
Just saying.
Wow.
So yeah, you get those moments where things are just like really hard to.
That's like a big.
Yeah.
Well, John, you and I, we play Genshin Impact a lot. And that is a very large video game with a lot of voice lines in it. And you can imagine, I was watching some streams of some folks who do this, and this is a Chinese game translated into English, professionally translated, but full of, Noctilucus Jade and Magnemite and all of these, more or less made up words all squashed together into these sentences. And some of the voice actors were saying, like, I had long sequences where I just could not do a single line. They kept stumbling over, all of these lines. So just that must be insane.
Yeah, the Armeno Archon with the whatever. Like, hey, huh?
Yeah.
Zhongli working with Jiang Ling
Yeah.
working with.
Yeah. In fact, that was one of the things they said, is that they would come in and folks would say, okay, so this area is called Liyue. Okay, Liyue. No, Liyue. Liyue. No, Liyue. I'm saying Liyue. Like, what's the problem?
Well, in college, I had a class that was history of East Asia, Japan, from 1815 to 1945.
Wow.
And there were a couple of students who were exchange students in the back, and the professor spoke Japanese, and he said, it's funny the nuances that occur in the language, and pronunciation is total key to getting how like a certain word works. And he looks at the guys in the back, and he's like, if I say we're all looking at him like, the hell's he doing? He's like, you understand that there's differences in what I've just said. And they're both like, oh yeah, entirely. We're all like,
and the rest of you all
just
is
said
like,
like 12 times. What the hell's they got to say? I'm like, nope, that's a thing.
Mandarin Chinese has 3 different tones that affect language. So is that, mei na, and mei na are all different words.
Right.
Literally. Which blew my mind until I met somebody from a province of China where their dialect has 7.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, yeah, just give up now. It's just unless you've gone
This
over
is
it,
one of the-
no.
Yeah, this is one of those things you make a mistake in that you've just told somebody you hate them and you hope their family dies. And you're like, no, I just asked you what the bathroom was. I'm so sorry.
So at UMBC, I decided I had to take a language, and I was just like, you know what? I like Asian stuff, so what's available? Mandarin Chinese. Okay, it'll be difficult, but I'll check it out. Sure.
Useful.
Yeah, right. Day one, that, all the different tones, and I'm just like, French it is.
Je comprends français.
C'est bon, monsieur.
Yeah, right. Also this week, news stories we want to touch on. Tubaraya Productions is partnering with Netflix to create a new CG animated Ultraman feature film.
Oh,
wow.
The staff aims to cast a mix of Japanese and Western stars, coupled with a large number of below-the-line talent from Japan. Below the line meaning like production crew, that kind of stuff, right? So, not like...
Terrible people from Japan. We don't want B-level actors. We want C or D-level actors. Oh, wow.
The film story will follow, gotta love it, baseball superstar Ken Sato, who returns to Japan to take up the mantle of Ultraman, but quickly gets in over his head when he's also forced to raise the child of his greatest enemy, a newborn kaiju.
Kaiju. Oh, that's awesome.
Who doesn't want to watch that?
Oh,
Come on.
It's going to overtake Mugen Train in like no time.
We're done.
Oh, that script presentation must have been fantastic. Hear me out, guys.
Yeah.
Here's
Okay.
my idea.
here it is. Now, what do we say to the nice man whose car you stepped on?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm loving Kaiju Girl Caramel Eyes.
That's right.
Which is all about a shoujo series about a girl who turns into a kaiju, so it can work.
I'm just waiting for the return of the rubber-suited baby Godzilla.
Yes, absolutely.
Godzuki. Here we go. It's gonna be awesome. Where he does the little chest pumping.
If you aren't careful, I will do the Godzilla genealogy bop right here, right now.
Oh.
Well, it's after 10. Let's finish the news.
Okay. Toei Animation confirmed last weekend is developing a second Dragon Ball Super anime film to release sometime next year. Original creator Akira Toriyama is in charge of screenplay and character design. So cool. That was a very popular movie. Like that movie made lots of cash.
Wow.
I'm so happy. The popular and widely memed Komi-san Can't Communicate manga is officially getting a TV anime adaptation to premiere in October. The story follows Wallflower Tadano, who discovers that his classmate Komi isn't actually the aloof, cool beauty everyone thinks she is. She's actually just very awkward, so he decides to help her on a quest to make friends. Basically, it's Sakaki from Azumanga Daioh, the TV series. And
it looks like cute character design, so I'm looking forward to that.
It's very nice. What I really love about it is that it is very much this sort of goofy comedy of this girl who, basically, and I think there are panels where, everyone sees her like this, walking down the halls, but what she's actually doing is this.
On the watch.
Mm-hmm. Just freaking out about everything going on. But there is genuine pathos. Like, you actually do feel bad for her that she just can't get past this, crippling social anxiety. So, nice balance act there. Anyway. Studio Sunrise and talent agency Asobi Systems' Artist Witch project revealed an upcoming original net anime this week, set to debut on YouTube May 28th. The project will highlight Harajuku fashion, art, and music, and will feature a number of different creators and artists, so curious about that.
Interesting.
Apparel and music creator Jun Inagawa is launching an original anime titled, wait for it, Maho Shoujo Magical Destroyers, featuring an otaku hero and a magical girl anarchist. Yeah, again.
Okay.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I want to know what a magical girl anarchist
I
is.
know. I think it's basically the magical girl from Is This a Zombie? Pretty much.
Zombie Korowa deska.
Mm-hmm.
Does she work with the bad guys or something? She hates the nominal good guys and the bad guys equally, and she's in it for herself?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it could be
she's just Gen X and waiting for the world to burn and laugh.
Yeah. Who knows?
Oh, now I want a magical girl who transforms into a 90s punk rocker vibe.
Oh, God.
Where the transformation sequences black lipstick and, flared tartan skirt and all that and piercings. That'd be great.
Wow. Wow. Listening to this ska music and being angry. She could be the other housemate. Is it Nana? Is she the sort of metal girl, or is she the cute girl?
They're both Nana.
They're
both Nana. The one that's the metal girl, Nana. There you
Yeah.
go. Magical girl transforms into her.
I'll do it.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Excuse me. I got all choked up by that one. A new short-form anime has been announced celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Okayama International Circuit Motorsports Racetrack. Hairpin Double will be set at the racetrack itself and follows a group of racing-themed idols who must transform into a superhero team to protect the track from mysterious monsters.
Oh, wow.
Again, I'm there. I'm there because it sounds like a Dallos level, just all sorts of things.
It's the Dallos pit.
It's the Dallos pit. Yes.
This is going to be gratuitous shots of the track name.
Mm-hmm.
The absolute layout of the track will figure every episode.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just okay.
And there will be other gratuitous shots, I suspect.
Oh, no doubt, because you want to see those shots in this track.
Right.
Because that advertises this track.
Yeah.
Well, interesting.
Racing is very well known for its sensitive use of the female body in advertising and things like that. So I'm sure it'll be very, very respectful.
Yes. I'm sure it will be.
It will be so respectful that it will look like.
Oh no.
Hot mess?
Oh no.
Wait for it.
There we go.
Oh, boy.
Yep, Lily Tasha. There we go.
Oh, my goodness.
Love it.
I was worried it was going to be Legend of the Overfiend. Wow. We took the high road on this one. It's after 10, so hallelujah. Woohoo!
Producer Saburo Umiya launched a crowdfunding campaign this week for an original anime project titled Ninjaxis. The campaign's trying to raise about $27,500 to fund a pilot video for the project, whose story is set in Clockwork City, where two families vie for power. The project aims to highlight the appeal of traditional 2D animation with 3D CG kept to a minimum, which is intriguing.
Yeah, for $27,500, you're going to highlight hand-drawn versus using CG.
Which shouldn't be hard. I mean, the whole point is that 2D animation is a lot cheaper.
Yeah, but for $27,500, that's like terrible amount of money to pay somebody to do that by hand.
Well, again, pilot video. We're talking 2 minutes or whatever, right? Like it's not going to be. It's not going to be long, I'm sure. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how that rolls.
Yeah, definitely. Acclaimed, the anime production company Studio Pierrot, has launched its new label. It's pronounced Toiro, but it's spelled plus IRO because plus is to for and anyway. And with its first project, All Rush, which is set in a fictional animation studio called Studio One. So we're getting another anime about an anime. It'll be about a young man as he begins his dream career at an animation production company and discovers the job's a bit more overwhelming than he imagined.
So his hopes and dreams are dashed on the rocks of reality.
Exactly.
It's the story of long hours and him starving to death slowly.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Neat.
Right. This is great. This will be wonderful.
There'll also be a manga series.
I was going to say, it's just more malt liquor anime.
There we go. There'll also be a manga series which will begin serialization in June on Twitter.
Twitter?
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I presume it's because so many, manga series have gotten started as net strips posted on Twitter or these little net manga and so forth that then build a following and you get the full manga publishing and all that kind of stuff. Eventually move on. So I guess they're moving to that direction. Who knows? Shueisha has added a listing for a new novel in the Rurouni Kenshin franchise.
Ooh.
Slated to launch in July, the Rurouni Kenshin Kamiya Dojo Monogatari novel will center around, spoiler alert, Kenshin and Kaoru's wedding ceremony. And her remembrance of when the two first met. Interesting.
So the Kamiya Dojo story. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The story of the Kamiya Dojo, basically. Curious.
Interesting. Yeah,
as a novel.
That's done well.
Yeah.
Please.
And I'm assuming, 'cause they just announced the listing, don't know. I'm assuming the original mangaka didn't write it. Maybe he did. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that's why I'm saying I'm hoping it's done well because then we should hopefully if it's done well there's popularity that we might get an adaptation of this.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows?
We'll see.
There's certainly plenty to do in Kenshin.
Yeah.
And the final live action movie is coming out soon too. So that might also be a deal as well.
Okay.
Boy, live action adaptation of The Wedding. That'd be anyway.
Yeah.
G Holdings announced this week that it's acquired the right to develop a smartphone game based on the Haikyuu anime. The game will, perhaps not surprisingly, be a volleyball game featuring cute, super deformed characters, and will also have a story mode that follows the anime because Haikyuu.
Will they make it to nationals? Just put all the Haikyuu team on the Are You Lost show, where you play the game and then you're on an away mission to wherever, and then you end up stranded on an island. Who survives?
Mm-hmm.
That's a game I could play.
There we go. As of number 2020, there were 50 million copies of Haikyuu in print, and it won the Shogakukan Manga Award for Best Shonen Manga in 2017. To give you an idea of why they may be pushing that particular franchise. Also kind of curious if we get any more. Let's see here. It was the 6th best-selling manga of 2015, 4th best-selling manga of 2020. Sold 7.2 million copies over the course of the year. So yeah, Haikyuu's big.
Yeah, and has been for quite some time.
Exactly.
So I know Kira, she's done the Haikyuu cosplay before she and Alan moved.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a thing. People love it. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a sports anime I've ever been into, but it's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that'll do it for us for this week for the news. Thanks for watching. See you next week on the news.
Woo-hoo.
And now, Jay, I would pay money to see Higurashi on Ice. I would pay money for that.
Oh no!
Wow. My goodness.
Just to see the spurts of red water, squirting onto the ice.
Can you?
Yeah.
How many times will the Zamboni have to come out?
You just push all the bodies away.
Oh, Jesus.
Put a blade on the front of the Zamboni and just clear the bodies. Like, oh boy.
We are Higurashi. We are Higurashi.
Chunkity chunk chunk chunk.
The Chicago Times said, why? Why, God? Why? The Poughkeepsie Bee says, we don't know what's going on and we don't understand why.
Yeah, pretty much.
The LA Reviewer says, the greatest thing that should never have been.
Pretty
Come
much.
see it today, Higurashi on Ice. You'll be dying to see it.
There we are. All right. I got to talk about something I like.
Higurashi?
Please God.
No.
No.
Legend of the Over... No.
I'm not going to do a spit take today, thank you.
I'm going to talk about Key the Metal Idol.
Oh.
Very good.
Yeah. So welcome to Brent's Anime Review Corner, where I talk about anime that I love. Key the Metal Idol's an unusual one for me, because I came across Key fairly early in my otakudom back in the day when anime was hard to find. And I watched this not long after I'd watched Serial Experiments Lain. And Key is in a somewhat similar genre to Lain, in the sense that it's sort of a sci-fi, sort of techno-thriller kind of a thing, although it's much less technological in the sense of, like, desktop computers and internet and so forth, and more about, robots, frankly. Key is set in a basically an alternate universe, Japan, where apparently essentially robotics work has progressed as quickly as, like, PC development progressed back in the day. And so certain individuals have been able to create androids very quickly, even in, like, 90s Japan, in secret, of course, because anime. And so the story focuses on this teenage girl named Key, who explains to everyone that she is an android, that the man she lives with built her and sends her out. The thing is, because all of this stuff has been done in secret, nobody believes Key could possibly be an android. It's just, no. Like, you have skin, you have all this kind of stuff. And she's like, no, this is actually who I am. And it should be pointed out, Key's a fairly unusual girl. She is definitely emotionless. She definitely, if you imagine a robot, that is kind of how Key acts all the time. And then she, as the story goes on, gets pulled into all sorts of nefarious science fiction-y action stories, and some pretty dark content. Key is an ambitious anime series, with a lot of dramatic plot lines all going at once. And I think you will be into Key exactly as much as you are willing to accept and dive into its premises. If you accept this story of, our robot's real, no one really believes it, but Key definitely believes she is, and she would know. And then, other robots showing up, and also supernatural things happening, which Key can also somehow influence as well. And tying this into Shinto and other aspects of traditional Japanese storytelling. Because this is I gotta move past some things here. Key is very thoughtful, in the same way that Lane is, in the same way that Boogie Pop Phantom is, in the same way that Angel's Egg is. It's a quiet, serious show with bursts of surprising, sometimes shocking sequences. It knows. This is one of the things that really got to me. Key is surprisingly constrained and restrained. It has the following plot lines, the following things going on, and it doesn't push itself too far. It's covering a lot of ground, but it doesn't try to be all things to all people. It is very much executing on these things that it's exploring around how we treat each other, how people should be treated, and kind of respect for other people. But in this very quiet, serious way that also reflects on a lot of the things you've seen in anime around these sorts of subjects. So you've seen Ghost in the Shell, a lot of these sorts of concepts coming along as well. There are a few things I have to note about this series. There's a lot of nudity, so get ready for that. And it comes up out of nowhere, and there are times when actually, not just there are times, that nudity is very deliberately used. It is never just fan service. When it happens, it is meant to be like, or something like that. Or it is meant to be representational or something. So often in anime and Japanese media, nudity is used more as a sign of purity. It's used sometimes there too, but it's always intentional. Key is one of the more intentional anime out there, I would say. That said, it is covering a lot of ground. It is a TV series followed by 2 movies. In the movies, they, without a doubt, ran out of money. Because there are long scenes in the movies of just people talking. And in some cases, literally just sitting there. There's a famous shot where 2 people are talking, and one person has his hands up like this, and the other person is turned looking away from you. So they don't even animate lip flaps. It's just static images of characters, talking with just dialogue running over them because just the budget ran out. And so there's a lot of just kind of, okay, and now the info dump where we explain the backstory, we explain this thing and so forth. So it's not always the most elegant of series. However, when I got to the end of Key the Metal Idol, I did a thing that I've only ever done for Serial Experiments Lane, Neon Genesis Evangelion, Technolize. Those might be the only ones, where I then stood up and spent an hour pacing back and forth in my parents' den, actually, thinking about what I just seen and processing it and working through what the plot lines were, what they meant, what my feelings were about it. I had a lot to digest after the end of Key the Metal Idol, and it felt very, very satisfying. Some of the plot lines are resolved, I would say, more clearly than others. It's definitely not one of those things where it's like a Hollywood movie where things are just kind of, tied up with a bow at the end and everything's fine. But that is also the nature of the story it's telling, is that things are messy. And so I have a great fondness for Key the Metal Idol, although it did come along at a time in my life when I was very hungry for that. And so there was probably a certain amount of me being very much ready for Key the Metal Idol, and so it spoke to me very strongly. So yeah, it's one of those animes where I can think like, oh yeah, Key and Sakura and Dr. Mima. Those names are still in my mind from this anime. Again, it's very different. It's not for everybody, but I loved it. That's Key the Metal Idol, and I still have the hat on. Oh well.
We won't hold that against.
Thank you. Yeah. Elfin lead on ice. I watched Key again, like I said, probably 20 years ago now, and it couldn't have been that long ago, but yeah, it was. It definitely leaves an impression one way or the other. John, what did you think of it?
I've made it to episode 10 so far.
Cool.
And it is firmly what we were discussing, a place that you need to be in to watch that show.
Yep.
And just in 10 episodes, I've not even done the first season.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's one of those where there's a lot to unpack what you're watching, how to interpret what is Key. What is the world that Key is in? How does all this fit together? You had the time after it was done. I was trying to do that at the same time watching it. I'm like trying to piece all the puzzle parts together. And it is quite a thinking piece that I need to be centered in the right place at the right time to finish Key, to make sense of what I've seen out of it.
And that's actually a really interesting point. Back then, like, I bought Key, and that was probably the only anime I had new to watch for the next 2 weeks. Because that's what I bought at Suncoast.
Right.
That's what I had on me. I'd watched everything else in my collection, so that was now there. I didn't have the Crunchyroll queue to watch. I didn't have anything else to keep up with.
Which Key is available on Crunchyroll.
Oh, yeah, there we go. And so I think that is also interesting in that it was easier back then to focus on an anime and just say, I'm enough in the mood to just kind of get all the way through. Huh.
Yeah, now it's definitely like, okay, I'm a spider or Key.
Right.
I think I'm going to watch I'm a Spider right now because I cannot dedicate that much of my gray matter to think about this at the moment.
Have you gotten to the moment with the assault on the tower? When the group goes in to get Sakura back?
I'm up to Bugs.
Okay.
Which is episode 10.
Okay, I think that's just before that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like we're getting there. I've already gone through the Golden Serpent.
Okay.
And I was just like, And that led me, just that one episode with the sick child led me to just finish the episode and then sat there for like 20 minutes like, what is the nature of humanity? What makes us human? I'm like, no, stop it.
A friend of mine watched Key, and afterwards he was like, "There's no way she's an android. It's not possible. I just don't think. I think she's just delusional." And I thought about it, and I said, "When do you ever see Key eat?"
Yeah.
Like, oh.
And you do see key details that show he's not human.
Right.
So it's like you can't deny that, but then that again, like we've talked about other series like Time of Eve, questions of what makes you human.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Quiet Country Cafe. Everybody seems very human.
Yep.
But they are not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Commander Data, is he human or is he an android?
Mm-hmm.
How do you define humanity?
Yep.
Drumhead.
Mm-hmm. And does it matter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Key is a thinker.
Yeah.
Is a very big thinker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which, I mean, in the vein of Lane.
Yeah.
You know, again, not to rhyme. But the same kind of thing. It's like Lane is, you have to dedicate time to think of Lane and to think of where Lane is going and what Lane is doing.
And Lane especially, because if we do sit down and go over the grand unified theory of Lane, it hinges on a photograph shown in one shot of the series.
Oh.
Yeah, that is one of those things where it's like, oh, those two people are there. If they know each other, then that means this, which means this, which means this, which means right. But that's all you get is that issue, because again, and again, to defend it, like they're like, we're not trying to force our explanation down your throat. This is about this sort of experience that this person's going through. Anyway.
Yeah.
Lane's a thing.
And so is Key.
Yeah.
Key is entirely a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. What's funny is there is a the PPORs in Key the Metal Idol show up in Full Metal Panic. There are these secret androids wearing overcoats and hats in Full Metal Panic. And now, what I mean is, I think the original author just was like, "That's cool," and plopped it in his universe, you know? Because it's like,
oh wow!
A friend of mine and I, we'd seen Key and we watched Full Metal Panic, and we were like, "Was it just me, or was those are PCPRs? Like, it was totally the same thing that was in Key the Metal Idol."
Damn, yeah, no joke.
It's very weird. Yeah, and Lane
after I finish Key, I might have to go watch Full Metal Panic again.
Speaking of an anime I need to see and need to be in the right mode for and have not yet, Full Metal Panic Invisible Victory. I need to see that.
Yeah, I'm 2 episodes into it.
Oh, I'm 1 episode into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is...
Yeah.
That is...
There's a lot happening.
So,
like,
Steve, this is one of those franchises where there's various stuff going on. There's various kind of stuff they've hinted at and so forth and so on about things. In the opening, 2 minutes of the first episode of Invisible Victory, they start executing on all of that. They're like, and this character shows up, and he has this and that, and he's talking to this person, and it's like, oh, it's happening. Like, this is actually the final season of Full Metal Panic. Like, they're going to go there. Oh, gosh.
Telestia Testarossa?
Tessa, yes.
Tessa
Testarossa.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. And all those plot lines, and ooh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, here it comes.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the same sort of thing. That's why I stopped where I stopped.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, this is going to go, incredibly intense.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to, center myself for that moment.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, the haircutting scene in Second Raid. This is going to be a weird thing, but it's after 10. The prostitute scene in Second Raid.
Do I remember that?
So I'm sure you do. So for those wondering, there is Full Metal Panic is about a young man named Tetsuke Sagara who is a very messed up young man.
Yeah.
And it's played for laughs some of the times, and other times it's not. And
well, being a child soldier, kind of screws your brains up.
For what it's worth, he's basically Hiro Yui. Thrown into a comedy.
Yeah.
So, the female lead has been captured. She's out of the picture, and he's walking down the street one day, and he sees her on the street, kind of all dolled up, and goes over and talks to her, and finds out it is not her, it is a streetwalker who just happens to look like her. And they have this kind of short, he's like, oh, okay, never mind. And she goes, are you okay? Basically. And nothing happens between them, but they end up finding a room and just chatting. And Sosuke starts dealing with things. And he starts kind of letting it out. And he starts actually getting in touch with who he is. And it's an incredibly
hot mess.
Hot mess, yeah, exactly. Because this young woman has no idea what he's talking about. Like, she's never met him before in her life, and she's like, just let it out. Like you know, you need to get this off your chest.
I'm a paid therapist.
Yeah,
one way or the other.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh,
yeah. And Invisible Victory looks like it's going to be all that, basically.
Yeah.
Along with all the plot going on.
It's going to be a lot of expiation of the soul in that, and boy.
Yeah. So looking forward to that, but not like right immediately, which is fine.
Yeah.
There's no news this week. I checked back. Nothing of particular note happening in early May. Historically, May 9th is One Piece Day in Japan. If you're curious, just FYI, happy One Piece Day.
Cool.
Yeah, it's fine. Other than that, FYI, we're going to go on a break for the next couple of weeks. So the Weekly Dig is going on vacation for the next 2 weeks. We're having our beach episode, basically, for the next two weeks.
I said mountain.
No, yeah, there we go. Okay, yeah, actually, that's a good point. It's May, so it should be our Hot Springs episode.
Oh,
right? Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
But
we should have recorded. We didn't record anything of the Hot Springs trip.
No, we have a few
onset
photos.
trip.
Yeah,
photos, but no. Damn it. Well, we're gonna have to do that again.
Go back. Exactly. Yeah, there will be no photos inside the actual Baz, if anyone's curious.
After 10. Oh, no, wait.
No. So we take a break for the next couple of weeks, but then we'll be coming back in 3 weeks for our seasonal anime draft.
That's right.
Oh, boy.
We're going to see how our draft about 3 months ago did, how our picks went. I have not looked yet. I'm going to wait until then to actually look back at our picks and see. So what we did is about 3 months ago, we sat down with all the anime coming up on Analyst. We drafted a bunch of anime that we all chose, and we will see how well they all ranked against each other based on user votes in there. Exactly.
And Steve's choice of Cestus is going like a rocket up the charts.
I'm sure.
Up the charts.
Coming soon, Are You Lost, Brent and the Gang edition.
Oh,
sure.
Nice.
I'd make that.
All of us trapped on a small Japanese island somewhere.
So we will be we'll be doing that, and we will also be picking our draft for next season.
Yeah.
So look at the shows coming up and see what catches our eye.
Yeah. See what good things could happen and what awful abominations occur. Yay!
And then after that, I have a special announcement because we literally just decided this today. Following that, we're going to do a Serial Experiments Lane special series. For 4 weeks, we're going to watch 3 to 4 episodes of Serial Experiments Lane every week and analyze it on the Weekly Dig.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
And we're going to talk about it. We're going to go as deep as we can into that show. I will also have on the YouTube channel links to the videos I've done on Lane in the past, if you're curious about history and that kind of stuff. If it works out, I'm also going to try Twitch streaming the Serial Experiments Lane PlayStation game. That's going to be a whole another thing to do, but my hope is to show you all what the original Lane PlayStation 1 game was, and what the experience is of it, and how it relates to the anime series. Spoiler alert, not much. They're very different stories, but there's definitely some connections. So that is a thing that's coming up. Exactly. So that is going to be our plan coming up over the next basically 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Into the summer.
exactly.
Wow.
So yeah, it's coming
How
up.
fast it got here.
Coming up fast, absolutely. You know, we're halfway into the season right now, the spring season.
Can't believe
Yes, Wesley, this will absolutely be a public viewing. So I'll live stream the game on Twitch with chat going and all kind of good stuff. And obviously, I'll announce it, put stuff on Twitter. So check out stuff. Check out our Twitter account, Anime Archaeology, for all the announcements there as to when exactly those streams will be. It'll probably be like Friday night to stream the game, and then Saturday nights, a weekly day before it for the lane.
Now I know it's YouTube, or was it like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell?
Yes, there we go.
To be alerted to when the Twitch whatever.
Yes, please do that. Yes.
That thing.
There we are. Exactly.
When it does the thing, be alerted that it
Perfect.
thinged.
So yes, and I would love to have you all there to share the experience of playing the PlayStation 1 Serial Experiments Lane game, which you'll notice I have not yet said its genre because I have no effing clue.
This is going to be like the video game version of The Ring, where it's like everybody watching is going to be like,
yeah.
now you have to go in 7 days and like show this to other people. Be like,
I've emulated it. I played it a little while, and I literally have no idea what a genre is.
it's a game.
Kind of.
Huh.
Technically. I mean, what's a game?
What is
And hopefully
your
something
humanity?
entertaining.
That's. I mean,
Was it
kinda.
entertaining?
I mean, it's fast.
It was
it's interesting.
Dallos.
It's weird. You are literally navigating through a broken computer file system.
Which I've seen a little bit that you showed before.
Yep.
That was just
Yeah,
like,
it's Genre's
I
game.
had no idea how you were navigating anything in it and what the end goal was, but definitely there were choices involved and things happening.
And that's the thing, is that like you're just dropped into this and you're like, figure it out. Like, you don't know what's happened, you don't know why things are in the state they are, you're just reconstructing it as you're playing the game and figuring out what happened as you play the game. So I don't know.
Which is great for aspiring budding programmers to figure out how to debug a system that's gone down.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
And then for the rest of us who are like, what the, who to turn on the, can I turn it off and on one more time? Is that will work anything?
And it's all like in, was it Copland OS? The OS in Lane is the OS you're using to navigate through. So it is a fictional science fiction operating system you're using. You know, it's Lane. It's very Lane.
It's Windows Vista. No.
The sound of heads slamming on the floor playing this game.
Exactly. Fortunately, there are guides out there. There's information out there. So if we get stuck, it won't be hard to figure it all out. But it's going to be an experience.
All right. Step 1, eject game. Step 2, ask for refund. Hey, come on now.
I don't know if you can die. That's an interesting question. I wonder if you can.
Probably not. You probably just spend eternity stuck in a loop.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you're not fighting anything.
Right.
You're not. Yeah, it's interesting.
You slowly succumb to apathy and just become a huddled mass on the floor of angst.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it'd be like the ET game for Atari. You didn't lose necessarily. You just lost interest in playing it. And you just stopped.
What's really fun, if anyone's curious, look up, like if they have on, people have uploaded to YouTube some of the clips of there's full motion video in there, and there's some anime in there, technically. So it's not like PlayStation 1 graphics. They literally hired people to do 2D cell animation of this. And oh boy, is it bad. Oh boy.
Boy, it's terrible.
Not like, and not bad in the sense of technically inept, in the sense of they clearly were told, you need to animate these 20 clips in like 2 weeks. Go.
Ooh, wow.
And so they're doing their best they can. And I think it also looks like it's all digital. In 1996 or whatever it was. So it's really rough. It's really rough.
Yeah, ow.
You can tell what's going on, but there's, things are off model a lot and things along those lines, and it's just, cool. They didn't have an anime studio, attached to the project. It's just a video game. So anyway.
Wow.
Um,
big old blue screen in the background of things. Like, whoa, hey, GPF moment.
I agree. Yeah, after beating the game, you just feel empty inside after beating it. That's the lose condition. Hopefully, you may feel empty inside after winning as well. I mean, it's lame. Who knows?
But what is winning?
But exactly. Right.
We what is any of this?
What is the meaning of anything?
Peace.
Have you ever thought of doing a Mystery Science Theater 3000 style anime watching show with watching like ghost stories and your thoughts as the series plays? Yes.
Yes.
The problem is that YouTube would take us down within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
We have not been able to find a way of doing that in a way.
Have they tightened up restrictions on things like the reaction video stuff? Have they really clamped down on that?
It varies. Some people get away with it, some people don't. But they've clamped down increasingly over time.
Okay, as I say, because I used to. It's been quite a while I watched, but I used to see a lot of the ones where it was the entire screen was playing whatever was going on.
Yeah.
And there was a little floating head in the corner that was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that!
Yeah.
Let's watch more."
Yeah.
And then it'd be like 2 minutes of silence. Then it'd be like, "Oh goodness, amazing!"
Mm-hmm.
And then more.
They've flipped that now, where now it's like the person and a tiny little screen down there.
Screen in a corner,
with the little things, and even that sometimes gets flagged.
Okay.
But Wesley, I would turn the entire channel into that if I had a way of doing it. I would spend all my time doing that if we could. But yeah,
you did see there was a crowdfunding success for MST 3000, right?
That's true. Yes, they're bringing it back again.
Yep. People want it. People paid for it. It's crowdfunded it. So I'm like,
Yep.
yay, cool.
I'll be watching. As soon as
Crow, Tom Servo, all the gang.
Absolutely. All back and riffing on cheesy movies.
Nice.
Wow. Wesley wants us to dress up as Mike, Crow, and Tom.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, wow.
I think you guys would look excellent. I'm going to go find like a jumpsuit and I'll just be the sort of...
Wow. I mean, I do have the puppets. Not those puppets, but I do have puppets back there.
Wow.
I did back in the day. I mean, this is back on Ustream, I think.
On who?
Ustream? Ustream? One of the old.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, it was one of the old video streaming platforms. Back when Justin TV was one of the platforms.
Back when MySpace existed?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, damn.
And
wow.
I used some of those services, and because no one cared until you could stream anything, so I would show anime clips and so on and so on. And as a special event once, I MST3K riffed episode 1 of Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Oh God.
That was very special. I still have the script of that around here somewhere. I'm very proud of that.
Does the video does not exist? That's all gone.
It's all gone.
Oh, lost media. Yeah. Damn it.
But I mean, I could be convinced to do a private performance at some point.
Ooh.
Find that script and
on-con auction.
Whoever's
the highest bidder gets a performance piece.
Nice.
I'd be up for that. And for what it's worth, I actually followed the process the MST2K crew followed, which was you sit down with a piece of media and you watch 6 seconds or whatever's long. You basically a line of dialogue, and then you come up with something, and then you rewind and you watch it again, and you come up with something and you watch it again. You do that over and over until you've come up with every possible joke you can, and then you do the next line of dialogue, and you just keep on doing that over and over and over, and you end up with all of these jokes, and then you kind of whittle it down to an actual usable script.
Damn. So like an hour and a half film. There's a lot going on there to be watching. Just enough dialogue to come up with jokes.
I think they would take. It would take them a day to go through a movie, all the way through the movie to the end, getting that first draft of jokes in, and then they would do it again on Tuesday to get the kind of the full thing, And then they would write their sketches on Wednesday. They would record the host segments on Thursday, and then do the movie on Friday. That was the process.
Holy.
Yeah.
Wow. That's fairly intense.
Yeah. Well, think of the set guys. Think of the prop makers. Who would be told on, Tuesday, oh, we have an idea for a sketch. We need you to build this thing that collapses and explodes. It needs to be ready by Thursday.
And then on Wednesday at 11:59, we don't need that.
Exactly.
Yeah. We decided to just go with the they'll just work with that. That's fine.
Yeah. What channel would MST3K be successful on? It's actually right now it's on a Comet, which I think is a great home for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And obviously Netflix did them for a while, but Netflix is so, inconsistent.
Choosy?
Yeah, choosy. Exactly.
Choosy.
Yeah.
They're moving on.
Yeah,
They just keep moving on.
Exactly.
The next thing.
Without taking apart and explaining a genre of anime such as its history. Sure, I'd love to do that. Anyway, we should get going. Thank you all so much, as always, for being here. We appreciate that. So we'll be on a break for the next couple of weeks. We'll be going off doing, like we said, our Hot Springs episode. And we will be back in
magical crystal ball.
Yes, we'll be. Steve will be figuring out the future of anime and report back on that in 3 weeks.
From distribution channels to productivity and profits and investments in.
I'm just still trying to figure out what the hell I learned tonight.
Because I do have that question.
That the chef's hat hides the invisible head.
What did we learn on the show tonight,
Brent?
Not a goddamn.
I don't know what I learned either.
Wow. Steve was throwing the honesty card down there. Not a damn thing.
Mugen Train was successful. Boy, that's a shocker.
Yeah. It's been that way for months now.
And I'll be honest, full disclosure, it was a slow news week. There's not a lot of shockers at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm
amazed at Dallas.
I learned we were able to get an hour's worth of conversation out of Dallos. I was not sure we would do that.
Frankly, I'm amazed.
Definitely a thing. I'm glad I saw it. I mean,
agreed.
It's certainly not one of those things that I would be like, oh my gosh, everybody put everything down. We have to go watch this. No.
Well, I think I've learned that Dallos is a lot like Atlantic City. Everyone needs to do it once.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's all you gotta do. Then you can just leave it in the trash heap of history.
Well, I think it's definitely if you're looking at Oshi's stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to be following that path, but I'm not entirely sure that I said to myself after finishing it, this is a landmark milestone thing, and therefore it is, in perpetuity. Everyone needs to know it. I don't know that I felt that way. If should I maybe I'm out of sync with things. I don't know.
Yeah. No.
Could be perfectly riffed.
Oh boy, you could go to town with that thing. It would be hysterical to redub it. Redub it with wacky dialogue. That would be I would die laughing at that. And it's perfect for it.
Dallas is definitely that is so riffable.
Time has come.
Its time has come. Yes, absolutely. All right. I'll take episode 1. John, take episode 2. No. All right.
What kind of licensing would we need to get permissions from?
Oh God, I can't even imagine.
Moly.
I am sure there are multiple sci-fi Japanese movies about 60 or 30-foot salamanders. I have no doubt. And I do have a crow puppet somewhere in the house. Thank you all so much for being here. Hope you guys have a great next couple of weeks, and we will see you back then. Have a great one, everybody.
Johnny, see you in
See ya.
2 weeks.
Bye. Don't
Sayonara.
let the deal get ya.